para iniciar la reunión del Consejo Municipal. Doy las gracias a la señora Perry por estar presente a tiempo, su puntualidad. Sin embargo, necesitamos 10 miembros para iniciar el quórum. Sir Burnson, Galante, Gu, Holden, Labange, Wiesikowski, Pacheco, Parks, Reyes, Wise y Sánchez. Se encuentra en el edificio. Favor de pasar a la sala para iniciar la reunión del Consejo Municipal. Muchas gracias.
everyone. Welcome to
Buenos
City
días a
Hall.
todos.
Welcome to
Bienvenidos
Council
al Ayuntamiento
Chambers,
de
and
Los
welcome
Ángeles, el
to
Consejo
a meeting
Municipal
of the
y a
Los
la
Angeles
reunión
City
del
Council for
Consejo
today,
Municipal de la Ciudad de Los
Wednesday,
Ángeles. Hoy es
May
el miércoles
28,
28 de mayo
2003.
2003.
The City Council
El
meets
Consejo
every
Municipal se
Tuesday,
reúne todos los
Wednesday, and
martes,
Friday at
miércoles y
10
viernes
a.m.
a las 6 de la
Although we're
mañana.
having a little bit of a late
Aunque
start today.
tuvimos que
Meetings are open to the
empezar un
public. We
poco tarde
invite
el
you
día
to
de hoy.
join us. For members of the public
Gracias por su
unable to
paciencia.
attend council meetings, we
El
can be viewed
público
live
puede
on your cable station, Channel
presenciar
35. We can be viewed live via webcast from the city's homepage or heard via council phone.
esta reunión.
Madam Clerk,
Puede
would you
verse a
please call the
través
roll?
de
Brinson,
la página
Galante,
de
Garcetti,
internet
Gruhl,
o
Han,
vía
Holden,
telefónica.
Labange, Miskowski, Pacheco, Parks,
Secretario
Perry, Reyes,
Municipal,
Weinstein,
Garcetti,
Padilla,
Gruhl,
11
Han,
members
Labange,
present. The
Pacheco,
quorum
Parks,
is
Perry, Reyes,
present.
Thank you
Padilla.
very much. The
Quórum cumple
council
ser
is officially
presente
in session. Before
oficialmente.
beginning with
Se abre la sesión de
the
este Consejo
matters appearing
Municipal,
on today's
empezando por
agenda, let me
asuntos en la
recognize
agenda del
Mr.
día de hoy.
Labange
Señor
for an
Labange
introduction.
hará una presentación.
President, we have some guests here
Tenemos
today. The
asientos
Student Council from
invitados aquí al
Aeolian
Consejo
Elementary School in Whittier, California.
Estudiantil de
Please
Whittier,
rise and be
California. Pónganse de
recognized
pie
by the
para
City
recibir
Council of
reconocimiento por
Los
el Consejo
Angeles.
Municipal de la Ciudad de
And
Los
salute
Ángeles.
you as students who are
Les
involved in
felicitamos a ustedes,
council. And
estudiantes que estén
look at that. Janice Hahn,
involucrados
you
en
talk about girl power. I don't see a guy
Concilio
there. Look at all
Estudiantil.
that. There's the guys in the back.
Ahí están los
Congratulations to you
muchachos
all.
allá atrás. Felicitaciones.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Welcome,
Gracias,
students.
señor Labange.
We pick a
Bienvenidos,
great day to be
estudiantes.
here.
Es un gran día por estar
Madam
aquí.
Clerk,
Actuario,
first order of business,
primero,
Approval of the minutes.
Ms. Perry moves
Orden del
and Ms.
día.
Hahn seconds.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Reyes
Soluciones,
moves
sí.
and Mr. Park seconds.
para
Before
aprobación.
beginning the
Antes de
regular
iniciar
agenda,
la
Mr.
agenda
President, there's an
regular
item that
presente, hay un
has been
asunto
requested to be
que
continued. Item number 2,
se ha pedido que
the
se
applicant
aplaza asunto
consents to a
número
continuance to June 18th.
solicitante está de acuerdo a que se sea aplazado hasta el 18 de junio. Asunto 2 será aplazado
Is there any
a
objection? Seeing none, item 2 is continued.
3 de junio.
On the regular agenda, item number 1 is an
Asunto
item
uno es un
notice for
asunto
public
aviso para
hearing.
audiencia
Appeals
pública.
against confirmation of assessment, and it's a 1911 Act in Council District 7. A motion is required
Existe una
to
moción
confirm the
para
assessment.
confirmar esta
Okay, members, I do not have
tasación. No
requests members of the
tengo
public to address the
petición del
council
público
on
para
item
hablar
number
con los
1.
municipales por
We shall
asunto
deem the
número 1. Por
public
lo tanto, la
hearings
audiencia
open and
pública
closed.
se abre y se cierra.
Members choose to call this item special.
¿Alguien más desea categorizar ese asunto como
Seeing
especial?
none,
Nino.
Mr. Pacheco
Señor
moves
Pacheco
the item.
Pide
Madam
que
Clerk,
ese
please open
asunto
the roll.
sea
Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 eyes.
puesto en voto
That is approved.
y este ha sido aprobado.
Next item, please.
Item number 3 is
Asunto
also a
3
public
también
hearing
es
item. It's
una
a public
audiencia
convenience or necessity in Council District 9, and a motion is required to grant or deny the application, and findings must be made by the
Y se deben de
council.
llevar a
Yeah,
cabo
on item number 3,
una
I do not
recomendación
have
por el
requests
municipal. No
members of the
tengo
public to
petición
address
del
the
público para
council.
hablar con el Consejo
We shall deem the
Municipal. Por
public
tanto, la
hearing
audiencia
open and
pública se abre y se
closed.
cierra.
We do need a motion to
Necesitamos una
grant
moción
or deny.
para otorgar o
Ms.
para
Perry?
negar. Señor Perry.
Do you have a motion
Señora
on
Perry
item
tiene una
number 3?
moción para asunto número 3.
Okay, let's call this matter special by
Será
Ms.
categorizada
Perry
como especial por la señora Perry.
as we await a motion. Next items, please.
Next items, Mr.
Siguiente
President,
sección
items for which
presenta
public hearings have been held,
asuntos que
items
han tenido
4
audiencia
through
pública. Asunto
18.
4, 18, asunto 4, 18 ahora están pendientes. La audiencia pública se lleva a cabo en el comité, por lo tanto, existe una moción para reabrir las audiencias públicas, ya que no hay ninguna moción. Miembros, hay una petición para categorizar esto como especial.
An amendment on which item?
Una
Mr. Zine
enmienda
calls 14 special.
para asunto 14, por lo tanto, será
Any
categorizada
other
como especial por el señor
specials?
Sáenz.
Items 4
Otro
through
especial,
18.
asunto 4 al 14.
Item 11 called
Asunto
special
11,
by
acusado
Mr.
especial por el
Parks.
señor Parks.
Any other specials?
¿Algún
Items
otro
4 through
especial?
18.
Asuntos 4 a 18.
Seeing none.
Nino.
Madam Clerk, please open
Actuario,
the
abre
roll
ese
and the balance
voto
of
en
the
el resto de los
items.
asuntos.
Please close the roll
Cierre
and
ese
tabulate
voto
the
y
vote.
tabule ese conteo.
12
12
Those
sí,
are
estos han
approved.
sido aprobados.
Next items, please.
Procedamos.
Items for which public
Asuntos
hearings
que
have not been
no han tenido
held, items
audiencia
19
pública,
through
asunto 19 a
47.
47. 19 a 47 ahora son pendientes. Tengo una tarjeta sobre asunto 47, por lo tanto será categorizada como especial. El resto de los asuntos no tengo tarjetas del miembro del público para hacer comentario público. Cuando la audiencia pública se abre y se cierre, al miembro de categorizar uno de esos como especial. 47, que es especial, señor Pacheco. 39,
called special by Mr. Pacheco.
especial por el señor Pacheco.
Any other specials?
¿Algún otro más?
Mr. Zine.
It slipped by me, number 15, please.
Número 15, por
Number
favor.
15?
Yes.
Okay, let's get back to that in a minute.
And Mr. President,
Señor
on item number
Presidente, asunto
19, that
número
is an
19,
award
esto es
of
un
sale Well, bids were opened this morning in the CAO's office, and the awarding bid was for $37,110,000 for Miquel bonds, and the winning bidder was Citigroup Global Markets Incorporated at a true interest cost of 4.414,850%.
Members, that is the CAO
4.50%. Este es el
report on
reporte
item
del
19. Mr.
CAO
Checker
sobre
moves. Any
asunto
other
19,
specials on
algún otro
items
como especial,
19 through
algún otro
47?
especial sobre asuntos 19
Seeing none,
a 47 y 1,
Madam Clerk, please
Octavio,
open
abra
the
ese
roll on the
voto.
balance of the
El resto de los
items.
asuntos,
Please close
cierre
the
su
roll
voto
and
y
tabulate
tabule
the
ese
vote.
conteo.
39.
13, sí,
Those are
estos han
approved.
sido
Forthwith
aprobados.
on
Procedamos
19,
sobre
please.
asunto 19.
And Mr. Zine moves reconsideration of item 15 to
El
call the
señor
matter
Sain pide
special.
que el asunto 15 sea
Let's open the roll
reconsiderado.
on
Abra ese voto para
reconsideration.
reconsiderar el asunto 15.
Please close the roll
Cierre ese
and
voto y
tabulate
tabule
the
ese
vote.
conteo.
39.
13,
Item
sí,
15
asunto
is
15
reconsidered and
será
called special
reconsiderado
by
y será
Mr.
acusado
Zine.
especial por el señor Sain.
Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, are the closed sessions 48, 49, and 50. Do you wish to hold those matters on the desk?
Let's hold all closed session items
Todos
on
los
the
asuntos
desk.
que
And Mr. City
se
Attorney, do we
llevarán a
have
cabo
any
bajo puertas
items to
cerradas se
continue today?
Yes,
mantendrán
items
pendientes.
48
Asunto
and 50.
48 y 50.
Members, items 48
Asunto
and 50.
48 y
We
50.
have a request to
Hay una petición
continue.
para aplazar
Seeing no objection,
estos
so
asuntos sin
ordered.
protesta. Se
And
llevarán
those
a
will be
cabo y estos
continued for
serán
1 week to
aplazados
June
una
4th.
semana hasta el
To June
4 de
4th. That's
junio.
items 48 and
Asunto
50,
48,
49
50, asunto
closed session
49.
items
Es un asunto
will
que se lleva a
be,
cabo bajo
held
puertas
on the
cerradas.
desk.
Este se mantendrá
Next item,
pendiente.
please.
Procedamos.
On the continuation agenda, item 51
Asunto
is an item for
51
which
es un
public
asunto
hearing has
que
been
ha
held.
tenido
Members,
audiencia
item
pública.
51 now before
Asunto
us.
51 está
Members wishing to
pendiente.
call
¿Algún miembro
item
desea que
51
torce asunto
special?
51 como especial?
Seeing none,
¿Ni no?
Madam Clerk, please
Actuario,
open the
abra ese
roll.
voto.
Please close the
Cierre ese
roll
voto
and
y
tabulate the
tabule
vote.
ese conteo. 13,
Item
sí.
51 is
Asunto
approved.
51 ha sido aprobado.
Next item, please.
Procedamos.
Item number
Asunto
52 is the
52
budget
es
resolution, and
la
that is
resolución
an
del
item for which
presupuesto. Es un
public
asunto
hearings have not
que
been
no ha
held.
tenido
Okay, we
audiencia
do have a
pública.
card on
Tenemos una
item
tarjeta
52. Let's
para
call that special.
hacer comentarios
And,
públicos sobre asuntos
Mr.
52. Por lo
Pacheco
tanto,
will be
será
the first
acusada como
member to be
especial. Señor
recognized on item
Pacheco
52.
sea la primera
Going
persona
back to the
que
items
dará
called
prestación
special,
sobre
item
asuntos
number
diputados.
3
Ahora,
was
asunto
called
3 fue
special
autorizado
for a motion
especial
by
para una
Councilmember
moción
Perry
del
to
la
grant or
concejala
deny the
municipal para
application.
otorgar
Perry, are we ready on
o
item
no
number 3?
aprobar la solicitud. Señora Perry, estamos preparados para el
If there are no cards
Si no
there
hay
on that
tarjetas en
matter, we
este
can
asunto,
do that on consent.
podemos
Or-
hacer esto si todos están de
Well,
acuerdo.
I guess we have to vote on it now.
Tenemos que
So,
votar
Are you moving
sobre esto
approval, Ms.
ahorita.
Perry?
Yes.
Pide que
Okay,
sea
Ms. Perry moves
aprobado,
approval.
sí.
Any further discussion on item
Diálogo
number 3?
adicional sobre asunto número 3.
Seeing none,
Ni no.
Madam Clerk, please
Actuario,
open the
abra ese
roll
voto
on item number 3.
sobre asunto 3.
Please close the roll and
Cierre ese voto y
tabulate the vote.
tabule ese conteo.
39.
13 sí,
That is
este ha
approved.
sido aprobado.
Next item, please.
Item number 11
Asunto
was
número
called
11,
special by
especial
Councilmember
por
Parks.
el
Mr.
concejal Parks. Señor Parks,
Mr. Chair, I had oversight. Can I have
Presidente,
51 special also?
también quiero actualizar como 51
Okay,
como
we've
especial.
already
That was the
voted on 51.
continuance from last week, I think it was.
Okay, 51 has been
51
acted upon. Let's consider that a motion for
Tenemos
reconsideration.
que considerar una moción para
Clerk, please
reconsiderar
open
asunto
the roll on
51. Ábrase
reconsideration of item
voto para
51.
reconsiderar asunto 51.
Please close the roll.
Cierre ese voto
And tabulate
y
the
tabule
vote.
ese conteo.
39.
13 sí.
51 is
51 será
reconsidered and
reconsiderado
called special by
y será
Mr.
autorizado
Parks.
especial por el señor
Mr.
Parks. Mientras
item
tanto,
number
señor
11
Parks,
is before
asunto
us at
11
this
está
time.
pendiente ahora.
Do we have the staff
Sí,
or
el
item
miembro
11?
los miembros del personal de este departamento sobre
We have
asunto
your
11
Appropriate department staff here for item
pase
11.
para hablar sobre asunto 11.
Department of Water and Power item.
Es un asunto del departamento de
I just have a couple of
electricidad.
questions.
Tengo unas
In
cuantas
dealing with the
preguntas
bonds, it looks
tratando
like we're
con
going
los
to go
bonos.
forward
Parece
on
que
at
procederemos
least $1 billion
con al
worth of
menos
bonds.
un
Could you tell me how
billón de
much
dólares con los
of the
bonos. ¿Puede
bonds
decirme
are going to be
qué
dealt
cantidad de
with
bonos
negotiated versus bid?
se negociarán?
Yes, my name is Robert
Mi nombre es
Rosansky, Assistant
Robert
Chief
Rosansky.
Financial Officer with Department of Water and Power.
Con el Departamento
The
de
entire
Electricidad,
1.1 billion
1.1
is being
billón
proposed for
está
negotiated bid.
siendo
Negotiated bid or just
propuesto para hacer pasar a través de negociación. Básicamente, tres diferentes grupos de bonos con los cuales estamos considerando. Una parte de bonos es aproximadamente 450 millones. El plan está sujeto para recibir aprobación aquí por el Consejo Municipal para proceder con el refinanciamiento aproximadamente junto a un segundo grupo de bonos, aproximadamente 450 millones, junto
a
con
small piece of another bond that we're going to combine
parte
that
con
will
otro bono
total
que
roughly
serán combinados
1.1
y
billion.
llegarán
That
a
will happen
1.1
sometime
billones. Esto
around
ocurrirá
the middle of July
aproximadamente a
if the
mediados
interest
de
rates
julio.
hold.
Si los intereses, las tasas de interés permanecen como están. Está pasando con una cantidad muy grande de bonos. Las quejas que escucho es que pasamos a través del proceso de presupuesto, se eliminan compañías pequeñas y compañías de minoridad son eliminadas en vez de negociar un precio el cual los incluirá en este proceso. Estamos hablando cerca de billones de dólares de bonos. Eso es muchísimo dinero, no solamente para la ciudad, pero también para las personas que ofrecerán estos bonos. Sí, estoy tratando de darme cuenta porque es que seguido utilizamos el proceso de presupuesto sobre proceso de negociación. Creo yo que generalmente hay una suposición que el proceso de presupuesto competitivo típicamente provee un costo menor de préstamo al departamento de la ciudad. En este caso particular hay excepciones. En este caso en particular, considerando la cantidad de esta transacción y también
there's a need to do some
tocante
marketing and possibly roadshow with potential investors, some of the larger funds. The third thing is that we're in a very volatile, as you know, interest rate market. And the final thing is that a negotiated offering allows you the opportunity to go out, let's say, for a couple of days in a retail order period. And typically, retail investors are less interest rate sensitive than their counterparts, the institutional investors. In general, you can get better pricing. So those are four key issues as it relates to these bonds. The other positive that I think you hit on was the fact that we have the ability to provide minority and small business, women business enterprises an opportunity to participate in a negotiated financing, whereas in a competitive financing, although there may be some participation, there's limitations because of liability that they would have to assume. So this also offers us an opportunity to achieve our goals in reaching out to MBE, WBE firms.
Es una oportunidad de poder incluir a comercios de minoridades. Muchas de las compañías locales y más pequeñas no están de acuerdo con esto. Ellos sinceramente creen que teniendo una tasa de negociación quizás le puede dar una mejor oportunidad, pero no pueden ellos entrar en este proceso de presupuesto porque yo hablé con su administrador general hace poco y hay necesidad de evaluar porque sí tenemos que proceder directamente con la restricción de sacar dinero fuera de la ciudad en vez de usar la herramienta económica para así utilizar el dinero de mejor forma en la ciudad o cambiar comercios locales más pequeños y de minoridad y tratar con el presupuesto de negociación en vez de tener un presupuesto claro que los elimina inmediatamente. Puede preguntarle a su departamento que considere esto y que considere esto porque si trataremos con $1 billón de bonos es nuestra ventaja para ver cuánta cantidad puede permanecer en la ciudad y si personas en la ciudad pueden beneficiarse de este. Nosotros estamos de acuerdo. Quiero hacer un punto de aclaración. Mi nombre es John Henson, estoy con la oficina de CLO. El departamento está vendiendo todos estos bonos a través de una venta de negociación, una venta competitiva. La razón por la cual están haciendo esto es para reunir los
We agree with you, the department agrees with you, and that's why they are taking this approach. The competitive sale is another method that is used by the city quite often, but is not being used in this situation.
But is this unique for this group of sales, or is that something that Ward and Power does all the time?
Su departamento lo hace todo el tiempo.
Yes, it is.
Sí,
it's not that it's unique, but when the city charter changes occurred a couple of years back,
el mandato constitucional cambió hace unos cuantos años. Antes de estos los cambios que se fijaron, solamente teníamos una opción, era de la venta con el tiempo. Por lo tanto, el varios departamentos se unieron e incluyeron verbaje que nos permite ahora no solamente llevar a cabo ventas que se pueden negociar, pero también proceder con este tipo de
most of our transactions that we've done over the last 3 years have been negotiated, with the exception of a couple.
unos
It was
cuantos.
difficult. The
Fue
default
difícil.
under the city charter is competitive. So there was a couple of water system deals that were in a few $100 million range where it could not be justified by our financial advisor to do those on a competitive basis. We have done analyses, and we've asked them to do analyses on the differences between a competitive and a negotiated sale, but the difficulty with that is that you can't find a specific transaction on a specific day of the same entity to where you could really demonstrate that one was better than the other. And so since the charter is defaulted at with the competitive sale, then we're forced to stay with that unless we could demonstrate otherwise.
Salvo si
But the
podemos
bulk of
demostrar
our
algo más,
offerings
pero
have been negotiated.
la mayor cantidad de nuestras ofertas han sido la
Well,
venta de
I
negociación.
didn't want to really get into
No quería yo hablar
the area that you're dealing with here, but I
tocante
presume
esta
that we
área, pero
have
supongo que
to
tenemos
get
que
the best deal for the city. Is that correct?
That's correct.
negociar el
And this
mejor
purpose of these bonds is
acuerdo
to
para la
reduce
ciudad.
the
Cierto,
interest
este bono es
costs,
para
which are
reducir el
now
costo de tasas de
much
interés,
lower
el
than
cual
when
ahora
the
es mucho más
original
bajo de
indebtedness occurred.
cuando la
That's
deuda
correct.
original
So whatever we
se
do
llevó a
here
cabo.
is in
Así
the
esto
best
es lo que
interest, and we'll save
hagamos lo que hagamos
the
aquí es para el
ratepayers
mejor
and the city
interés
a lot of
de
money.
la ciudad y por lo tanto
That's
ahorraremos
correct.
mucho
Now, as
dinero
far as
para la
the
ciudad y
process, I
para
would
los que pagan
presume
impuestos. En cuanto al proceso,
that
supongo
if all
que
things
si
being equal,
todos
that we would
los
do
factores
business
son
with
iguales, entonces
local
trataremos, llevamos a
purveyors,
cabo
whatever
negocios
the-
con
whether
los
it's
comerciantes locales, ya
bonds or
sea
whatever the
bonos
case may be,
o
all
sea lo
things
que
being
sea,
equal.
todos siendo
If all things are not
factores iguales,
equal,
pues si
then
los
we're
factores son
compelled to
iguales,
go to the
entonces
best
tenemos
offer that we
que
have.
aceptar la mejor
So-
oferta que se ofrezca. Así es.
Other members wishing to be heard
¿Alguien
on
más
this
desea esta
item?
presentación?
Seeing none,
Ni no.
Madam Clerk, please
Actuario,
open
abra
the
ese
roll.
voto.
Please
Cierre
close
ese
the
voto
roll
y tabúlese
and tabulate the
conteo.
vote.
13
13
ayes.
sís.
That is approved. Forthwith, please. Next item.
Item number 14,
Asunto
called
14,
special
que
by
es especial por
Councilmember
el
Zine, and I
concejal
believe there is
Zine,
an
creo
amendment
que
that
hay
has
un
been
cambio que
distributed
ya
to
ha
the
sido
council members.
distribuido
Mr. Zine, item
al resto
14.
de los concejales. Asunto 14.
Thank you. On item number 14,
Asunto
we've submitted to
14,
the
le hemos
clerk
presentado a la
revised plan,
secretaria municipal
revised site plan, and we want to
un
amend
cambio
condition
de este
2
plan y queremos cambiar
on that
condición
project.
2 en este proyecto.
and request approval of
Y
that.
pedir
Thank you.
aprobación de esto. Gracias.
Thank you very much. An
Muchas
amending motion
gracias.
has been
Un cambio,
distributed,
una moción con un
colleagues.
cambio ha sido distribuido,
Any other
colegas.
members wishing to be heard on
¿Algún
this
miembro
item?
desea hacer presentación
Seeing
sobre este
none,
asunto? Ni
consider
no.
this matter
Considera
as
este asunto
amended
entonces
without
con
objection.
este
Madam
cambio sin
Clerk, please
protestas.
open the roll.
Secretario
Please
municipal,
close
abre
the
ese
roll
voto, cierre
and
ese voto
tabulate
y
the
tabule ese conteo.
13 ayes.
Item
13.
14 as
Sí,
amended is
asunto
approved.
14 con este cambio ha sido aprobado.
Next item, please.
Procedamos.
Item number 15,
Asunto
called special by
15,
Councilmember
discusión
Zine.
especial por el
Mr.
concejal Zine, señor Zine.
Thank you. No, I'm not trying to be Nate-Holden. Mr. President and colleagues, this matter brought
Este
to our attention by the
asunto
County of Los
se
Angeles,
presentó
and it's for the adult film
a nuestra
industry. It's
atención
designed
por el
to
Condado de Los Ángeles, por la industria
keep people
para
safe,
adultos. Eso es
keep
diseñado
them
para que las personas se
from,
mantengan seguras,
AIDS
que las
and
personas no
other sexually transmitted disease. So the hope is we'll approve this and work in coordination with the
contagiados con
County of
el
Los
SIDA.
Angeles
Esperamos
and
que
having
esto sea
some
aprobado junto con el
health
Condado de Los
regulations for
Ángeles y sí
the adult
tener
industry, which we know
cierta
does filming
regulación
in our
con la
region.
industria de
And the
adultas.
concern
Sabemos
is
que
that
estas
the people
películas se van a
participating in
cabo
that
en nuestra
industry can remain
región y
free
para
from the
así que las
deadly
personas que
diseases
participan en nuestra industria
associated with
permanezcan
AIDS,
libres de las
sexually
enfermedades
transmitted
del
diseases, which
SIDA
affect
y
their
otras
So we request
tipos de
approval of
enfermedades
this and work
venéreas.
with
Por lo
the
tanto,
County of Los
espero
Angeles
que se
for
aprobado y
the
se trabajar con el
regulations.
Condado de Los
Thank you.
Ángeles para esta regulación. Gracias.
Thank you, Mr. Zine.
Gracias,
Other
señor
members
Zine.
wishing
¿Algún
to
otro
be
miembro
heard
que
on
se hace
item
presentación
15?
sobre asunto 15?
Seeing none,
Nino,
Madam
actuario,
Clerk,
abra
please
ese
open the
voto,
roll. Please
cierre
close
ese
the roll
voto y tabule
and
ese
tabulate
conteo.
the vote.
13
13
ayes.
sí.
That is
Ha sido
approved.
aprobado.
Next item, please.
Procedamos, por favor.
Item number
Asunto
39, called
39,
special
que
by
es especial por el
Councilmember Pacheco,
concejal
and there is an
Pacheco y
amending
hay
motion
un
that has
cambio
been
que ha sido
distributed to the council
distribuido
members.
al resto
Pacheco, item
del
39.
Consejo Municipal. Señor Pacheco, 39.
Mr. Pacheco,
Señor
where are
Pacheco,
you?
¿dónde está?
Mr. President,
Señor
we're
presidente,
circulating a technical
estamos
amendment to number
distribuyendo
39, which is on
una enmienda
everyone's
técnica
desk, as
sobre
I see it has been
asunto
circulated. So I would move
número 9.
39A
Pido que
for
39A
approval. Thank
sea
you.
aprobado. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Mr.
Muchas gracias, señor
Pacheco.
Pacheco.
Members, any further discussion on this item? Without objection, we can consider the matter as
Sin
amended.
protesta será
Madam
considerado
Clerk,
este
please open
asunto
the
con este
roll
cambio.
on
Si
item 39
el
as
secretario
amended.
principal abra ese voto
Please
sobre
close the roll
189
and
con este
tabulate the
cambio,
vote.
cierre ese voto y tabule ese conteo 13. Sí, este será aprobado. Ha sido aprobado. Procedamos, por
Item
favor.
number 47,
Asunto
call
47,
special,
cuestión
I believe by
especial,
Councilmember
cuyo que el
Garcetti, and there
concejal
are also
Garcetti
cards from
también
the
hay
public.
tarjetas del
Yes, we do
público.
have
Para
one
ser
card,
presentemos
item
una tarjeta
47.
sobre
The
asunto
council calls
47, por lo tanto, Susan
Polifronio.
Yes, I'm Susan Polifronio. I'm a member of the Hollywood United Neighborhood Council. I just wanted to speak in favor of keeping the budget portion of the Brown Act, in favor of your resolution to keep the Brown Act as part of the California state budget. As a member of the Neighborhood Council, we are just beginning to find out what the Brown Act means from the other side. And as onerous and cumbersome as it might be, I think it's really important to have that public eye on what we're doing in the small sense as Neighborhood Council or in the large sense as city and state government. So I just wanted to speak in favor of that proposal.
nivel municipal y hasta estatal. Por lo tanto, solo quería hablar a favor de esta propuesta.
very much.
Muchas
This
gracias.
concludes
Esto
public
termina
comment on this
comentario
item.
público sobre este asunto.
recognizes Mr. Garcetti.
Señor Garcetti.
Thank you very much,
Muchas
Mr.
gracias, señor
President. And
presidente.
let me be the first also. I think we might have another public speaker card.
Quizá hay otra tarjeta de un público,
Why don't
del
you come
público.
forward and I'll
Pase
yield my time to
y
you,
yo
John.
le daré mi tiempo.
Mr. President,
Señor
we might not have
presidente.
gotten the card, but
We just received a couple more
Acabamos de recibir
cards.
unas
okay,
cuantas
I'll wait on my
tarjetas.
comments then.
And I'll hold your time.
Un momento.
Mary Leos Pacheco, of item
La señora
47,
Pacheco,
Joan Leonard, and
John
Jim
Leonard y
McQuiston.
Jim McQuiston.
Apologize about that.
Disculpen.
I've come here as a private
Yo
citizen, but I am
represento
also
aquí
a
como
member of the
una
Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council,
ciudadana
and I'd like
particular,
for
pero
you
soy miembro
to
del Concilio de la
support
Comunidad de Lincoln
the
Heights. Quiero que
opposition of the
apoyen la
Governor's
oposición
Act, because I
de
think that we
la
have
ley
a
del
lot of
gobernador,
problems
porque
in our
creo yo que
neighborhood
tenemos
councils,
muchos
and if you
problemas
do
en los
this,
consejos de
it'll only
comunidad y
cause
si
more
hacen eso
problems
solamente
and more
causará más
confusion in our
problemas y más
neighborhood
confusión en
councils. So
nuestros
please
concilios comunitarios. Por lo
oppose what the
tanto,
governor is doing. Thank you.
opongan lo que está haciendo el gobernador. Gracias.
Ms. Leonard, followed by Jim McQuiston.
I'm Joan Leonard here from the
Nombre
Los
Joan
Angeles
Leonard.
Democracy Office of California Common Cause. But before I
Next,
make my
Democracia de
remarks,
Los
I want to
Ángeles,
add that I have
pero antes de
also
hacer
been
mi expresión,
asked
quiero
by the Los Angeles Sunshine Coalition,
agregar
an
que
ad
también la
hoc group
coalición
of
de
journalism,
Sunshine
First
es un
Amendment, and
grupo
civic
temporal
groups and
de
individuals whose
reporteros
name reflects
de
their
individuos
mission to pass out a
quienes
statement from its
reflejan
chair,
su misión
journalist Karen O'Cam,
de
who
parte de
could
su
not be here
presidente,
today,
de la
but
reportera,
whose sentiments
pero
minimally
cuyos
mirror those of Common Cause and the many people who believe
buenas son las
that
causa
Governor
común,
Davis
ellos
has
creen que el
erred
gobernador
grievously. You should have those remarks before you
Davis
as
ha
well. California Common
fallado
Cause Los
seriamente.
Angeles is here today to ask you
Aquí
to
estamos para
unanimously pass
pedirle
the
que
resolution
unánimamente
before you.
pasen la resolución
While it
ante
can have
ustedes,
no
mientras no
binding
puede
effect on
tener
the
efecto
actions of our
comprometor en las
governor or
acciones
the
de nuestro
state
gobernador o
legislature,
legislatura
it is
estatal,
vital that you
es
speak
sumamente importante que ustedes
definitively
hablen
so that the
definitivamente
voice
y
of the
claramente para
largest
que si la
city
voz de la ciudad
in our
más
state
grande de
is
nuestro
heard all
estado
the way
sea
to
escuchado hasta
Sacramento, loud
Sacramento,
and clear.
claramente
The Ralph
y
M. Brown
altamente.
Act came
La
into
ley de
being as a
Brown
result
se
of a
inició como
scandal of
resultado de un
secrecy
escándalo
uncovered by the San Francisco
clandestino que
Chronicle
inició
in
que en
1951.
el 51
For more
se
than half a
presentó por un
century, the
periódico
people
en San
have
Francisco
richly
por
benefited
más de
and
5 años.
it has been
Personas han
strengthened most
beneficiado
notably in 1986 as a result of some missteps in this very city hall. The irony of the proposal by Governor Davis is that it will not save a penny in real terms, and in fact could end up draining our coffers as a result of backroom deals no one would know about. The yearly cost to the state of the notice provision of the open meeting law, which is, by the way, 2/100ths of 1% of the projected state deficit, is repaid exponentially because the public, groups like Common Cause, and the media can be and are watching at all times. What is most troublesome is the threat to how all jurisdictions work together. As a large city, we would best be able to absorb the cost of notice. But the myriad of small but crucial agencies, boards, and commissions outside the city and county, whose actions we don't control but often depend on, but whose budgets are small, they might not be able to absorb the cost of appropriate meeting notice and might foolishly think that they can get by on goodwill only. So the remedy cannot merely be that the City of Los Angeles and other large jurisdictions pass our own Brown Act. a lack of a uniform open meeting act across the state would undermine the ability of jurisdictions to work together or even to trust each other. Please show that we are in this together with the whole state and send a loud and unanimous message to our governor with your yes vote on this resolution.
Thank you very much. Mr. McQuiston.
Jim McQuiston, East Hollywood Community Association. One little known fact about this is the city hasn't been charging the state the expenses that it incurs on the Brown Act. And now with our neighborhood councils, we have one of our council members has suggested eliminating $1 million because that might be something that we could get along without of. That's Brown Act expense. We could bill the state for that. Let's bill the state, and let's bill them for our arrears that we haven't gotten in the past. We need the money just as much as the state does, maybe even a little more.
Thank you, Jim. This concludes public comment on this item. Returning to council discussion, Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Thank you to the members of the public who are here, the neighborhood councils, Common Cause, Sunshine Coalition, and others who have really helped spotlight this. And I think you make an excellent point, Jim, in that looking at the same research that we haven't been reimbursed. Sometimes the cost of reimbursement are more than the actual reimbursement. But as we look at neighborhood councils and others who need to have these public meeting notices, this is something very important for us to access. Public meetings are the cornerstone of democracy. Democracy has to be like a wide open plaza where everybody can step up and be heard and speak. And if we don't know where the plaza is, if we don't know where the meetings are, if we don't know when the meetings are, and we don't know what the meetings are about, we lose that basic connection to our government. So I want to thank everybody who seconded the motion. I think it's very important that we send a strong message to Sacramento that even if we haven't been getting some of the reimbursements ourselves, that the biggest city in California believes in this. And we can't make the assumption that localities will just do this anyway. Once you take away the requirement, this becomes, in the words of what Republicans used to call federal government, an unfunded mandate. And when you look at national security or other things, we can't have unfunded mandates at the local level. When we'll be talking in just a few minutes about every place else that we're cutting, we can't afford to see any city cutting that down. I think this is really critical for the neighborhood councils. And Susan was saying before that there are parts of the Brown Act that are quite onerous. And it is quite interesting that the state legislature themselves don't follow the Brown Act, which I think would be a good thing, at least in the positive parts of it. But this is clearly one of the most positive, if not the most positive más positivo, sino lo más positivo de la ley. Pero tenemos que unirnos, estar firmes y enviar una voz entera que reuniones abiertas son la base para democracia, que sabiendo cuándo, dónde y de lo que se trata en las reuniones es la manera que funcionamos y nos seguimos nosotros de otras formas de gobiernos. Espero su voto unánime. Gracias a todos por su gran apoyo en esto y espero que recibir un anónimo. Un voto unánime. Gracias, señor Han.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti, for bringing this forward. Actually, Jim McQuiston brought this item forward to me a while back in my Education Neighborhoods Committee. And before I had an opportunity to draft this motion, Eric did it before me, but I want to stand and rise in support of this. And you're right. And it's always interesting to me when we talk about the Brown Act, of course, the state legislature imposed that on local governments, but left themselves out locales, pero ellos excluyeron. So it's always interesting to me that our state legislatures do not abide by the Brown Act, and yet now it comes to a point where they're even willing to then really create this unfunded mandate. So while we have to comply with it, they don't want to fund the compliance anymore, and I just think that's wrong on both accounts, particularly with neighborhood councils. It's an opportunity for people all across the city to be informed in advance of the decisions that are going to be made in government that most impact them. And information is power. And while neighborhood councils are certainly only advisory, I've already seen their power enacted in enormous ways because they have the information, because they know in advance of the items that committees are voting on, boards are voting on, and the city council is voting on. So I'm in support of this. One of the things I wanted to know, I didn't know, Bill, if you wanted to come to the table
quiere pasar a
It's been
la
brought to my
mesa,
attention
me ha
that we were
mencionado que nos deben
$447,000
$447,000
last year,
el
and
año
yet
pasado
received
y aún
only
solo
31.
recibimos 31.
And I understand we're owed
Entiendo que aún nos
358
deben
this year,
358
and
este
wondered
año.
if we could have a report
Y
back, if you
quisiera
have
ver
any
si nos puede dar un
information on
reporte, si tiene usted
when we can
información,
expect that money, or
¿cuándo podemos
how do
esperar
we go
este
about
dinero?
getting
¿Cómo es
it,
que lo
and
que
why
vamos a
is that
hacer
such a
para
discrepancy
conseguir este dinero?
between
Porque hay
what we're
tanta
owed and what
discrepancia
we've
en lo que
received?
se debe y lo que hemos recibido.
Well, one, the state is, the numbers you just stated are
La cantidad
accurate.
que usted acabó de mencionar son números exactos.
It's been our experience
Ha
with
sido
the
nuestra
state
experiencia
with
con el
respect to
Estado
the reimbursement
tocante al
for
reembolso
mandated programs.
para muchos
Their
programas.
reimbursement is extremely erratic.
Su
In
reembolso
fact,
es
we went through one
bastante
period where we submitted
un plazo de tiempo
claims
donde
year after year
presentamos
after year, and
facturas
they
mes tras
finally
mes tras
paid us
mes
about
año y finalmente nos
$500,000 in the
pagaron
late
como $500,000
90s
a
for
fines
a
en
4 or
los
5 year
90
period.
por un plazo de
This is one
que se va a acabar
area
dentro de 4 o 5
where,
años. Esta es una
excuse
área
me, in the governor's proposed budget,
donde en la propuesta del
he's
gobernador
recommended
le está
elimination
recomendando
of
la
funding
eliminación
for some of these
de fondos
mandated
para
programs,
estos
and
programas.
compliance with reimbursement for these mandated programs. We submit our reimbursement every single
Presentamos
year,
un
our
reembolso
request for
cada año,
reimbursement,
una
and
petición
it's
para que
cash as
sea
catch can.
reembolsado y no pueden
Totally unreliable.
ellos, no podemos confiar en ellos.
Mike, did you want to say something?
No, the numbers are right.
La cantidad es exacta.
Sue the state.
Yeah.
Demanden al Estado.
You know, and I think that's important for us
Creo
to
que
say
eso es
we
muy
still want
importante
to send
decir,
a
aún queremos
message.
enviar este
Actually, we're the
mensaje
perfect
y
city to send the
somos la ciudad
message.
perfecta para enviar
Because we
este
actually
mensaje
haven't
porque
been
no
completely
hemos
reimbursed for
no se ha
what is owed
reembolsado
to us, and yet
completamente
we
por lo que
still
nos
stand
deben y
firm to
aún
the principle
estamos
that
firmes
it's
al
important
principio que es
that the state
importante que el Estado
reimburses local municipalities for compliance with the Brown Act funding. So I'm stand in support of this. I think we send a message loud and clear to the governor and every other municipality in the state of California that has to abide by the Brown Act.
Mensaje al gobernador y al resto de las municipalidades que tienen que seguir llevar a cabo los reglamentos bajo la ley de Brown. Señora Groh.
Thank you, Mr.
Muchas gracias,
President.
señor
I too want
presidente.
to stand
También
in
quiero
support
ponerme
of
de pie
this
para
motion
apoyar
and
esta
acknowledge
moción
Mr.
y
Garcetti's
reconocer
leadership on
el
this issue.
liderazgo del señor
We
Garcetti
all
en este
know that
asunto.
the
Todos
Brown
sabemos
Act
que la ley Brown
makes our lives a little difficult sometimes,
hace nuestras vidas un poco
but it
difíciles
also
ciertas
makes
veces,
our
pero
lives
también
better
hace que nuestras vidas
because
sean
of the
mejor
openness, the
por la
transparency in
apertura, la
which we operate,
transparencia,
our ability to
donde
have
trabajamos,
the
nuestra habilidad
community
de tener
participate
que
in
la
our
comunidad
decision
participe
making. And
en
particularly,
decisiones y
both my colleagues have
particularmente
talked about the
ambos
neighborhood
colegas han hablado
councils,
acerca de los
have
concilios
talked about
comunitarios, han hablado
those
acerca
individuals
de
who are
los
here
individuos que
today
están
because
aquí
of the
el día de
Brown
hoy
Act,
por la ley Brown,
participating in this discussion.
participando en
So
esta
I just wanted to
diálogo.
stand in
Quiero ponerme de
support
pie para
of this
apoyar
motion. It's
esta moción. Es muy
to say to the state and to localities
importante
across
decirle al
this
Estado y a
country
lugares en todo
and
este
across the
país
state
y
that
en
the
todo el
Brown
Estado
Act
que la ley
has
Brown
been
ha
a
sido
wonderful tool for
una gran
our ability to
herramienta
have
para
neighborhoods
nuestra
and
habilidad
individuals
para
participate in the democratic process here in Los Angeles. So I want to still continue to have that and to have that right for so many of my constituents. So I stand in approval of that today.
Me pongo de pie para aprobar este asunto el día de hoy. Señor Holden.
Mr. President, members, I think the argument is that this is a state-mandated program, the Brown Act, and we're to be reimbursed for the costs. Is that correct? And that up to date, we have not received the total cost that from the governor, from the state, that was mandated by the state in terms of his program.
That's correct, Mr. Holden.
And what's the shortfall? How much they owe us?
¿Cuánto nos deben?
I think you said it before, but
We billed approximately
mandamos facturas de aproximadamente $447,000
fiscal year,
el año económico pasado hicimos 31,000 la cantidad de este año es 347,000 y el año previo
The previous year was 447,000.
the year before that?
That
previamente
figure I don't have.
no
In
tengo
the
esa
current year is
cantidad, el año actual es
347.
So when you
347,
start
pero no
adding it
hemos
up,
subido.
this has been
Empiezan
50
a
years ago. It's a good chance they will owe us a lot more money.
This
Dentro
is
de
the
varios años
incremental
nos
cost when they modified the Brown Act
debe
that
mucho más dinero, es el
required
costo
the 72 hours notice.
incremental cuando modificaron la ley
probably
Brown que
back
nos dio
in the
72 horas,
1970s when
creo
we
yo
got
que en los
started with
70s
this.
cuando empezamos con esto.
Or maybe it was the 80s,
Quizás en
and
los
we were,
80s
as I
y
recall, Los Angeles
recuerdo que
was the
Los
test
Ángeles
case
fue el caso
on the mandated cost.
All right, so was this
ejemplo sobre este
shortfall
costo.
included in
Entonces,
our budget
esta
for the purpose
cantidad
of
está
balancing our
incluido
budget? I mean,
en el
maybe
presupuesto
Mr.
para
Kishioka.
I don't don't believe we recognize this money
No creo yo que
as
este es incluido en nuestro presupuesto, no es incluido, no, porque
Because it's so unreliable,
no podemos
because the state is
confiar
so
en ese dinero porque el
unreliable
Estado
reimbursement,
no
we budget
reembolsa como debe
zero
ser.
for this dollar amount.
Incluimos cero
This-
para esta
this function.
cantidad, para
Now, the
esta
previous year
categoría.
to
El año previo
447 was
de
126.
447 fue $126,000 dólares. Fue lo que
Well, you know, in the state
enviamos en facturas
legislature,
a la
whenever they
legislatura
adopt
estatal cuando
a
ellos
mandate, they
adoptan un mandato,
include what's called
incluyen lo que
SB90
se llama
disclaimer,
SB
saying that this will not add any additional
de
costs
relevo
in order to implement the program on the part of the local government. And
en
that
implementar ese
disclaimer doesn't
programa
mean,
de
doesn't
parte
do
del
what
gobierno
it's
local.
intended to
Este
do.
relevo no
Because
hace lo que tiene que
those
hacer
costs
porque esos
are increased and
costos
absorbed by local
aumentan y
government. Do you have a
son
list of
absorbidos
those
por
kinds of legislation that mandated where the state has not fulfilled its obligation?
We can put a list
El
of that type
costo
together for you. if you
Any of those
lo
programs in
absorbe el gobierno municipal.
anticipation of being funded for those programs become a part of your budget?
It depends. I don't want to make a general statement,
No
but
quiero hacer una
we'd
declaración
have to,
general, pero
we'd be more than happy to
tendremos,
provide you with some specific
podemos
information to
proveerle
what
información
extent we
específica hasta
program
qué
that
punto
into the budget.
incluimos esta
That is
cantidad en
very
el
key.
presupuesto. Esto es clave.
The reason why we need to know that,
Necesitamos saber
because here we are
esto, porque aquí
discussing
estamos
spending
dialogando,
money in the budget that we
hablando
don't
acerca de
have,
gastar
anticipating
dinero,
spending money that we don't have for certain purposes
gastando dinero que no
that have been
tenemos,
specified.
que está en el presupuesto
And,
para propósitos que han sido
if you're
especificados. Y si usted
anticipating more money from
anticipa
state
que
government
el gobierno estatal
because of mandated
enviará más dinero
programs,
por
I'm not
programas,
saying, forget about the Ryan Act.
háblese acerca
And
de
you balance
la
your
ley
budget
de
on that
Brown
premise,
y
then you got a major problem, not just with the vehicle
ustedes
license
llegan a
fees, where you
una
might see a shortfall, but in the other areas as well.
presupuesto que
It's
esta cantidad
rather
donde esta cantidad
tragic,
está incluida y aún no la tenemos en
situation that
una
we're in right
situación
now,
muy
more
trágica.
and worse than one would
Es
anticipate.
algo peor
All
de lo
that
que
additional
anticiparemos. Toda esta
information
información adicional,
that I raised, the questions I raised,
las preguntas que yo
must be
he hecho
considered
deben de ser
before you can even
consideradas
think
antes
about
de
whether or not your
pensar
budget
si
is
sí o
to be
no su
balanced.
presupuesto
Mr. President, members, I
llegará a un
would say
punto
that
cero.
having been in that process before,
Participado en ese
state
proceso en el
mandated
pasado,
programs don't mean very
programas
much
del
at
Estado
all.
significan mucho.
SB90 disclaimers don't mean anything
El
at all.
relevo de
Just saying they want to have an
SB90 significa que no solamente
opportunity to pass
indica que ellos quieren
legislation,
una
mandate the
para
program on local
aprobar esta
government, and
legislación,
don't do anything about it beyond
obligar
that
que este
point.
programa se lleve a
And the
cabo
city is
bajo a
always
nivel municipal.
absorbing
Ellos no harán nada más,
those
eso siempre
costs that are
absorbe
mandated by the state.
los costos
With the
que
shortfall being
obliga
in
el
the state's
Estado.
budget anticipated anywhere between $30 billion plus or minus $5 billion. It's like
El
a
hecho de que
disaster. Okay?
el Estado
And,
estará
for those who think that they can
corto
do things here in local
de 30
government without the
billones,
state
es un
balancing its
desastre.
budget, they're going to see a major, major problem. The people of this city are
Las personas
going
de
to be hurt
esta
beyond their
ciudad
expectation
sufrirán
of
más
their
allá de lo que
belief.
esperan o de lo que creen.
And we here
Y
who are
nosotros
administering the
aquí,
affairs
los
of
que
city
estamos
government,
administrando los asuntos del
are going to be the
gobierno
ones they're going to
municipal,
point to. And it's incumbent upon us here today and
nosotros
days
seremos
ahead
culpados. Por lo tanto, es muy
to
importante que en el
guarantee
futuro
that we are
tengamos la
fiscally
garantía que
sound,
nosotros
that we don't
estamos
spend money
fuertes
that we don't
económicamente, que no
have.
gastamos
And
dinero
this
que
is
no
a clear
tenemos.
example
Esto es un
of
ejemplo
a state
claro
mandated program
de un
where
programa
you're spending money that
que
you don't
obliga al
have.
Estado
And there are many
y
of
uno
such
gasta dinero
programs.
que no
I know
tiene.
to be
Muchos
a fact.
programas como estos que se llevan a cabo.
Thank you, Mr.
Gracias,
Holden.
señor
Are there
Holden.
members wishing
¿Algún
to
otro
be part
miembro
of
de
this
esta
item?
presentación sobre este asunto?
If not, since the
Nadie.
matter has been properly posted and agendized, let's open the roll,
Ábrase voto,
close the roll,
cierre ese
and
voto
tabulate the
y
vote.
tabúlese conteo.
That is approved.
Ha sido
Colleagues,
aprobado.
before going on to the next
Antes de
item, just wanted to acknowledge and introduce a special guest with us. He's been with us before, and I'm sure he'll be with us again. Former Speaker of the California State Assembly, Robert
Invitado,
Hertzberg. The Honorable
previo, orador de la Asamblea Estatal, el honorable.
He said he's here to defend the Brown Act.
Él está aquí para
Any questions, you
defender
can
la
see him
ley
after council.
Brown. Si alguna pregunta puede hablar con él
Thank you
después
for
del
being with
Consejo
us. Madam Clerk,
Municipal.
next
Gracias por
item,
estar con nosotros, actuario.
Item number
La
51, call
secretaria
special by
de
Councilmember
Secretaria por el
Mr.
concejal
Parks, item
Parks.
51.
Asunto 51.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The
Gracias.
department gave me the
El
information I
departamento dio la
needed.
información que necesitaba.
Thank you
Todo
for
está claro,
that.
gracias.
Any other members with
¿Algún otro
questions or
miembro que tiene
comments on item
preguntas o comentarios
51?
sobre asunto 51?
Seeing
Ni
none,
uno.
let's move forward with the vote
Procedamos
for
con el
approval.
voto para aprobación.
Madam Clerk, please
Actuario,
open the
ábrase
roll.
voto.
Please close the
Cierre su
roll
voto
and
y
tabulate
tabúlese
the vote.
conteo.
49.
14,
That
sí,
is
ha sido
approved.
aprobado.
Next item.
Procedamos.
Item number
Asunto
52,
52.
and that was called special. There are cards
Es
from the
secretario
public on
especial,
this
ya que hay
item.
tarjetas del
We do
público
have
sobre
one
este asunto.
card,
Tenemos una
item
tarjeta
52.
sobre asunto
Council
52.
calls forward Mr. Jim McQuiston. McQuiston.
Señor Jim McQuiston.
Jim McQuiston,
Jim
East
McQuiston,
Hollywood Community Association.
Asociación de
The
East
scuttlebutt,
Hollywood.
I haven't seen the amendment yet. The scuttlebutt is something
Esta enmienda,
that
pero
was proposed
eso es algo que fue
Monday, a week ago, I guess it
el lunes
was,
hace una semana, creo
to
yo,
dock all departments 3%.
disminuir
And I did a
el
little
presupuesto de todos los
calculating, and I
departamentos
figured
3%.
that
Yo
that's
hice ciertas
equivalent
cuentas
of
y
cutting
esto es
all the
igual
funding
a
for one
disminuir
council
todo el
district
fondo, todos los
entirely,
fondos
everybody.
al mismo tiempo.
This
de un
is
consejo municipal
rather a drastic
completamente
move.
total. Eso
We
es
do need
una acción bastante drástica.
to do
Necesitamos
something else
hacer
first.
algo
Our neighborhood
más primero.
council
Los
system
concilios
is
comunitarios,
made
este
so
sistema
that they will
se
inform the
organizó para que ellos
population
informen al resto de la
about
comunidad
pressing
acerca
problems.
de
And one of the
problemas
charter
pendientes, y uno de los
requirements is to
requisitos
talk about the
del mandato es de
budgetary
hablar sobre el problema del presupuesto.
We haven't done
No
enough
hemos hecho
to
suficiente
energize
para
the neighborhood councils.
mejorar los
The
concilios
CAO
comunitarios. El
has
CAO
graciously given them all
les
the
ha
budget
dado todos
materials,
los materiales
and we expected
para el
maybe
presupuesto
that
y
they would act
esperábamos
on
que
them, but
quizás
they
se
need a
llevaran
little
a
bit
cabo,
more
pero
help,
necesitan
maybe
más
from the
asistencia, ya sea
CLA,
del
maybe
CLA,
from the Department of
quizás del
Neighborhood
Departamento
Empowerment,
de
to emphasize the difficulty and the fact
fortalecimiento
that we
de
do
la
need
comunidad.
to raise
Necesitan
fees.
saber que
We
tenemos
have
que
to raise
recaudar,
fees
tenemos
about
que aumentar el
$200 a year for
costo
everybody
aproximadamente
that
$200
lives in Los Angeles. That's a lot of
anualmente para
money.
todos los que viven en Los Ángeles. Es
That's not
mucho
what we're
dinero.
doing in
Eso
this
no es lo
budget.
que estamos haciendo en este
And that
presupuesto.
means
Eso
that we
significa
have to
que
get the word out
tenemos
and
que
get people
enviar
to
el mensaje,
realize that we
hacer que
really
personas se
do
den
need
cuenta que
this money.
necesitamos este
There's nothing
dinero.
else that
No
we
hay
can
nada
do.
más que podamos
And
hacer. Y
I am really disappointed
estoy muy,
that we
muy
didn't
desilusionado
get
que
the word
no
out.
enviamos el
Because
mensaje
that would make it
claramente,
a
porque
lot
esto
easier.
lo hubiera hecho mucho
The
más
fact
fácil. El hecho
this kind of
de
arbitrary
que ese
3%
tipo
across
de
the board
3%
bill is not the way to do
todo
it. I think the council has taken the proper
a todo
approach
no es lo correcto.
to
Creo que el
put
Consejo
off
Municipal
some of
ha
this money
tomado
that's
el
already in
paso adecuado de incluir este
unappropriated
dinero
budget
que está en el
until we
presupuesto,
see what the state
no
does.
asignado, y a
If the
ver qué es lo
state
que hace el
cuts
Estado.
our
Si el
vehicle
Estado
license fees down,
corta
we're going to be in a real sad mess. And we won't
nuestros
know
costos de
that
registro de
until the
licencias,
money's
estarán mucho
already
si no sabemos
committed
eso
and
hasta que el
spent.
dinero ya ha sido
So
asignado y ha sido
I think
gastado.
the
Por lo
council
tanto,
did
creo
a
que el
very
Consejo
wise
hizo
thing
algo
in
muy,
putting
muy
the money
sabio
in the
de incluir el
unappropriated
dinero
budget
en el
until
presupuesto
we
no
actually
asignado
find out
hasta
what our
darnos cuenta
financial
exactamente
situation is.
cuál es nuestra situación económica.
Thank you, Jim. This concludes public
Gracias, Jim.
comment
Esto
on this
termina el
item.
comentario público de este
I have Ms.
asunto.
Perry
La
on the
señora
queue.
Perry ahora quiere hacer
We'll
presentación.
give her the opportunity to
Ahora
speak
ella tiene la
first,
oportunidad de
'cause
hablar
I
primero
recognize an
porque
amending motion, but Mr. Pacheco is the
el
chair of the
señor Pacheco es
Budget
el
and
presidente
Finance Committee.
del Comité de
He's not in
Finanzas.
his place. Go ahead, Ms. Perry.
Okay, great. I think everyone has a
Creo que
copy of
todos tienen una
a
copia
compromise motion
de esta
on their desks now.
moción en sus
And I wanted to just make
escritorios,
a
y
few
quiero
points
hacer
about
unos cuantos
this.
puntos sobre esto,
The significance of it and the
la
importance of making
importancia
sure
de
that
esto,
we
y
as a
de
body
asegurar que
and
nosotros como un
as a
grupo
city make
y como una ciudad
public safety our number one priority
que hagamos que seguridad del
because of
público
what
es
it does
nuestra
to
prioridad principal, por lo que hace para
reinvigorate our respective communities
reinvigorar las
and
comunidades
to send a clear
respectivas y
message
así
to
enviar
those
un mensaje muy claro
residents in our
a los
respective districts
en
that we care
distritos,
about
nuestros distritos que
them
ellos
and
nos interesan y que
their safety and
su seguridad y su salud y su bienestar
primary
es
concern.
lo que nos
This
concierne
motion
principalmente.
will
Esta moción
avoid layoffs.
hará que no
It will give us financial wiggle room to then
compañías no
transfer public safety
desempleen
funding out of the unappropriated
despidan a
balance
personas.
and into respective departments as needed and indicated. It provides a balance
Esto
between the
provee un
mayor and the
equilibrio entre el
council,
alcalde y el
so the council
concilio para que
continues to have
el
ongoing
municipal
input.
continúe
The
dando
objective
su
here is not
input. El
layoffs,
objetivo
but
aquí no
to
es descansar a
accomplish
personas,
these
pero es de
goals
lograr
through
estas metas a
regular
través de
attrition. And with a special emphasis
proceso
on looking at management
regular.
positions, not field positions
Estoy
or
hablando
civil
acerca de
service positions, or
posiciones de
positions that deliver
administración.
services to the field or in the field. None of us can look at the people we serve and say that we are so lean that we can't find a way to tighten our belts even more. I think each one of us could probably name a department where we know that it may be top-heavy with management and could certainly revert one individual as we make it through these very difficult times for a year. I think if we all make an effort, we can find some place to achieve these reductions and to do it without layoffs. I think when we are asking our own city people, residents to restrain spending in order to accomplish this goal, it's something that we need to do ourselves. So I have several amendments which I will put out for your consideration later. At this point, I think we need to be focused and maintain the objective of this agenda, which is to provide a greater opportunity for public safety for all people.
Mr. Pacheco.
Señor Pacheco.
Mr. President,
Señor Presidente, colegas,
I just first wanted to say, if anything, that if we're considering any sort of compromise at this point, I would just simply recommend that we not prematurely make any cuts in any departments. And so I just wanted to put that out there first.
Mr. Holden.
Mr. President, members, this motion is deleterious, just hurts the process, and it should not be adopted. Ms. Perry, not at all. The budget is not something that we play games with. We either able to balance our budget as we do our checkbooks at home, or we don't. And I don't see where we should put any more emphasis on one and not on the other. That is, if you're fiscally competent and also frugal with your own checkbook, you should do the same thing with the people's money. And that's not what's happening here today. In this motion, that's not what's being proposed. I'm just not going to sit here, and vote to cut library services. I'm not going to stand here and cut recreational services and other services that the people have grown to expect and certainly they deserve. I mean, what way to take a child and have them to grow up and learn the process and be competent, then they have a library that's open and convenient for them and their families. This 3% across the board cut will hurt all of them. And as I said to the mayor, who is a friend of mine, I've been with the family for years, but I did say to him when he called me, we talked about 10 or 15 minutes. I said it serves his best interest of the mayor of the city of Los Angeles to accept the compromise that's been proposed by the council. And that is to hire police officers now to the end of the year. And by that time, we will know what effect the budget shortfall in the state of California will have on the city of Los Angeles. We have a better idea. We may very well have to do some hacking and sawing and cutting at that point in time, but certainly not now. We should not cut the money and put it in an inappropriate balance for the purpose of making these hires. You're going to need to do that later on. I can almost assure you that, given that there's going to be a shortfall. I said, we have made you look good with this compromise. And to go ahead and hack up these departments where they don't have any more to give. As someone said, they're down to the gristle. I'm saying they're down to the bone. And how can you bring a department manager in one-on-one and say, you got to take out 3%, you got to take out 3%? And that's what I said to him. The money is not there. So why keep with this kind of a process? We've had the same motion before us prior to the adoption of the budget, and it went down to twos because the majority of us were voting for the best interests of the people of this city to take care of the sidewalks, take care of the streets, take care of the curbs, the trees, take care of the libraries, take care of things that they actually need as well. And you know, it is the crime prevention program. Those programs are all good for our community and for the quality of life that we deserve and expect. I'm saddened that we are persisting in this effort. It's disturbing to me, and I know it's disturbing. It's an affront to the public, to the taxpayers of this city.
Mr. Holden is right. We actually considered this motion when we acted on the budget,
I have it here.
consideramos este presupuesto,
We
lo tengo
asked,
presente y pedimos,
and in fact,
y por hecho,
when we voted on this, we
cuando
actually voted
votamos
to
sobre
send it
esto,
to
votamos
committee.
para enviarlo
But
al
this
comité,
motion
pero
that
esta
the council
moción
has
que el
approved
Consejo
and in
Municipal ha
committee
aprobado en el
asks
comité
that the CLA
pide que
and
el
CAO
CLA y
report
el
back to the City
CAO
Council in 90
den
days
reporte
relative to the
al
status
Consejo
of
Municipal 90
employee
días
contracts, the
tocante
impact of the budget, the feasibility
impacto
of
del
increasing DWP
presupuesto
power transfer from to 10%,
otros
the impact and
variables,
cost savings of a 3%
de
across the
ahorros,
board reduction in
3%,
departmental budget, and the feasibility of
3%.
consolidating city departments and looking at fees. They are supposed to be reporting back to us this within 90 days when
dentro
we
de 90
acted, and this
días,
was
cuando
in
se llevó a
April.
cabo, que se llevó a cabo abril,
To move forward on
para
this.
proceder
So,
con esto.
in
Por lo
fact, this is
tanto,
redundant.
por
We
hecho,
did
esto
act
es
on it.
redundancia.
There's no
Si
question
consideramos
that
esto, no
some
hay
of the
duda que
merits, that some of these issues may be merited. But I think we are hearing from departments, I'd like to ask the CAO and CLA to come forward, because the CLA and CAO have indicated, and let me ask them a question, do you believe that the 3% across the board cuts can be made without affecting employee layoffs?
puede llevarse a cabo sin
I'd like Mr. Deaton.
sin hacer que haya
We can structure a 3% cut or any cut to
despidan
avoid
a personal,
layoffs.
si se
But
puede
what would
llevar
happen
a
is
cabo
that
y así
the
prevenir
amount of
no
savings,
descansar a nadie, pero
say
lo que
there is
ocurre
an
es que
employee
por
impact,
ejemplo,
and
si hay
we
un
go
impacto
through what we
en
would
la cantidad de
call
trabajadores
managed
y
attrition to minimize the impact. So as individuals retire, we just don't backfill those positions. They're basically red tagged. What's a greater concern would be the service impact. But as far as layoffs go, it can be structured in a manner where there wouldn't be an immediate plan for layoffs. But the one thing that I would caution is not to apply that 3% factor arbitrarily across the board. Rather, we should identify a dollar figure that we need to fund the council and mayor priorities, the budget priorities, and then allow our office time to work with the respective departments throughout the city to identify an appropriate cut. Because 3% across the board just, I would have a real problem with that. It doesn't work effectively.
el 3%, considerar 3% no funciona efectivamente, señor Deaton.
Let me just tell you, as I've stated before, the budget, the mayor's office, the mayor has presented a budget that is incredibly tight. There are in every department a managed attrition dollar amount that has been taken out. In every position, there has been every vacant position that has been vacant for a period of time taken out. And there have been targeted reductions taken out of every department. To take an additional 3% and not result in layoffs will, I believe the only way that can happen is that you transfer money from expense accounts and equipment accounts into the salary account to avoid those, because I don't believe there's that much play in the budget as a whole to take that kind of a cut on top of this.
I understand you indicate this is a very tight budget. Has the CLA and CAO begun to look at the motion that was approved and sent to committee earlier to start looking at other options?
No.
No.
Not yet. All right, and Mr. Fujioka, do you mind sharing with everyone what you just shared with me about Sacramento and the vehicle license fee, where we are today as opposed to where we were when we did the budget a couple weeks ago?
We're still closely tracking what's happening in Sacramento. And as we reported earlier, it appears that the impact could be somewhere in the low $30 million.
All right. I know that members, Mr. Fujioka just said that we were looking at a lot of volatility, a lot of variables in this budget. One of the things we counted on was full VLF fee restoration. The most recent information today is that about 30 million most likely will not be available. So we may start July 1st with 30 million less than we thought we had. It again, I think, proves the prudent course that the council did take in approving the budget. We didn't say no to any of these new hires. We didn't say no to these additional expenses. We said put them in the UB gauge our time, look at our other options the first 6 months of this year, the first 90 days of this year or sooner, look at what else is coming out of Sacramento, and go through the year cautiously, carefully, spending what we can, spending what we have assurance that we're going to have in the bank, but not commit to allow the departments to go and spend before that time until we know what the certainty is. I think the council acted prudently. Believe me, this isn't going to be the last time we're going to see it. We're going to see it again and again and again throughout this year. Hopefully keeping an even course and hopefully not having to avoid the drastic cuts and service issues that have been put on the table, and also be able to hire officers, but we've got to do it cautiously, and that's what the council budget does.
Creo yo que lo hicimos con mucha precaución y esto lo debe hacer el Consejo Municipal, señor Suárez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think Ms. Mizikowski said it fully and said it quite well. My recommendation, and I'd like to say this, Mr. Holden, you got it right as well, when you said that we've already acted on this. Because we have, this is really a light version of the more full-on sophisticated motion that was presented by Ms. Perry and Ms. Gould and others a few weeks ago. This is Perry Gould Light. And I think in order to be consistent and in order to indicate that we do, in fact, want to give full consideration to this proposal once again, my motion is to send it to committee where it will join its clone and where we will have a full analysis and report from the two folks at the table. But I would also request that we get a report in the committee from each of the general managers, because none of us want to do budgeting on the fly. And that's indeed what the purpose of the Budget Committee process was, to ensure that the council wouldn't budget on the fly. And we didn't budget on the fly, and we heard time and time again from the people who run the various departments in the city. Well, so far they've had an opportunity to weigh in with respect to this proposed 3% cut, basically through the Los Angeles Times this morning. I think we ought to hear from them in the Budget Committee as well. So my motion is send this to committee where it will join its clone, but let's have not just CLA and CAO report on the 3% cut, but also have the general managers report on that as well.
Sobre el corte de 3% y también que los administradores generales de cada departamento se presenten con un reporte sobre su cada administración.
And colleagues, and Jack, we are on the same page of wanting to make sure that the departments be able to respond, and I think Mr. Fujioka mentioned that as well. My understanding is that Ms. Perry was going to amend the motion to say that they come back within that 30 days with a report back on what that 3% means, because again, it may be that some departments can do greater, some could do less, because none of us want to, as Mr. Holden mentioned, do anything that is going to harm our libraries, our rec and parks facilities, etc., and the importance of that. And that was one of the reasons it was included in an earlier motion, was to look at this possibility. We all know that tightening our belts is very important, and I hear often from our constituents, and have in the last month or so, that we've talked about the budget, where they've said to me, you know, I'm willing to pay that extra $4 or $5, whatever it's going to be on the trash fee. But I want to know that the city is similarly feeling some pain and making some cuts and doing some adjustments and tightening their belts, just like, as someone mentioned, I think Mr. Holden, about our own checking accounts and making sure that we look at our own budgets. I'll repeat some of the things I said a week and a half ago, which was I know that this council is in agreement that we want to make public safety our number one priority, and we want to be fiscally responsible. That is critically important, and we as elected leaders were elected to be here to do that and to be fiscally responsible. So it's my hope that we can move forward from this, that we can work together as a city council to address the issues that we feel important, which is public safety is number one. I think the amendment does help us get to that point and allows us some of that flexibility with the report back in 30 days. And again, I think that was what Ms. Perry mentioned to me she was going to amend. so I don't know if when you speak again, Ms. Perry, on that item, but I think that just to remind each other as well that we have every month, that we are a little different than the state of California, who does not meet every month, every week to talk about how we adjust our budget, and that the City Council has done a very good job in the last several years to ensure that we are being fiscally responsible. So I just stand in support of Ms. Perry and Mr. Brinkle's motion today.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council colleagues. When it's all said and done, at the end of this process, my hope would be that we can stand with the mayor and say we all try to do the best thing for our constituents, that we all try our best to stand up for public safety, that we look within our systems, and we said public safety is number one. I also think looking at the budget at a micro level in committee will give us the opportunity to start looking at how they function. Where are we really truly looking at the fat in our department? I know we've been cut to the bone in many instances, but I also know that in other areas we have issues like how we spend our money on data, how we interact with systems, how we look at different types of personnel who are overlapping in functions. These are the kinds of procedures, processes that we have to look within our own city family. We have to be looking at different ways to become more efficient. We continue to talk about how to become more transparent. Well, let's make our budgets transparent within the departments and see what we can move to make it much leaner and more efficient. I hope this process gets us there. And working with the unions, we have this bias, and I hear it all the time when I'm out in the community. Oh yeah, you work for the city. Great. Very relaxing. I see folks out on the job, 6 guys digging 1 hole. I get the brunt of jokes as to how our staff is viewed by the general public. And I would like to show them that they are wrong, that our staff truly is working as hard as they have been. And in my district, bulk items have been picked up at an incredible record. Our tons of bulky items, our alleyways are being cleaned up. Let's continue in that spirit. Let's continue showing how we are making a difference and how the city family is cognizant of the economic times that we're in.
Mr. Brinson.
You know, members of the council, I understand you're concerned about whether you're going to have enough funds to run the various departments and so forth. And I hear all this talk about we're going to close the libraries, we're going to do this. I've been listening to this for 24 years. There's always a cushion in every budget that every department comes in and discusses with the mayor before it goes into the budget. And this is true now, and the 3% that's proposed is not going to change the world. It is not going to deprive kids of the ability to go to the library, and it's not going to deprive people of having their streets swept. What it's going to do is going to make the departments more responsible, to do a better job, to tighten their belts a little bit and get the job done. But more important than that, what it's going to do is it's going to ensure public safety for this city. Now, you know, you say, well, we'll look at it in 6 months, or like Mr. Weiss wants to do, look at it every quarter. You can't program a police department and recruit top candidates from all over in that manner. You have to make a commitment. If you make a commitment that you're going to increase the department by 300 and some officers, then everybody knows the money's going to be there. It's not an if, it's not a question mark, but you're going to make that commitment to the highest priority item that we have in this city, and that's public safety. So I would urge that you not send this to committee. I would urge that you adopt this, come back in 30 days with a report on how the impact is going to be. You're going to be here a long time, most of you. I'm leaving in another month. I have just about, as Mr. Hernandez used to say, I've got so many days left. Not many, Mike. I'll join you, not in the same office, but At any rate, I would think twice before you shelve this. Seriously. You send it to committee, you're killing it. You either have to make a commitment to hire these police or not to hire them. And the only way you're going to make that commitment is by putting it in the budget and not in the unreserved and unrestricted balance. I think that it's important that you do it. I'm not going to be here. You're going to have to answer to your constituents. You're going to have to answer to yourselves ultimately, because the most important thing, number one, public safety. And I would urge, and I vote on this, and that we find a way to finance this, even if it means everybody tightens their belt a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Burnson. I appreciate those 24 years of service, and I remember you were the first council member ever in this city council to call for increasing the police force for the city of Los Angeles in the great numbers over the years. I stand, members, because we have a city administrative officer. And Jack, I want to direct it to you. You talk about, having the general managers come to committee and tell us, I want the CAO, the manager of the city here, the city administrative officer to go over. Everybody, it's tough. What do we do? We have to have the CAO look at it and say, find a way. And as he said so eloquently, Bill Fujioka, it may not be 3% across the board, but let me look at that aspect of it. The CAO has to administer the city departments, because departments will come to you, Jack, and say they can't do it. And I've had the fortunate, I've been here longer, 28 years, I think it was, and at Prop 13, when they said all the world was going to end, when they had to change things around because of the change in the taxation, yet we find a way to do it. We have to be better managers. Just think if we were the 15 members, the board of directors of an organization that got cut, and how you're going to deal with it. You can't just push it off and say, go out and talk to the people that tell you can't do it. You got to find a way to come back. I think we have to make a commitment, members, because we have seen progress in the community with our police department to move forward in such a way that it makes a greater impact on public safety and the people, how they feel about it. Now, here's a 1947-48 report from the city of Los Angeles, Ron Deaton. You were not here, but how your dollars are spent. And it's 40 cents went to persons to protect property. I'll send this around to you. Where it went. Now, here's this one right now. It's a little late, Bill, because your budget was cut last year. It's a year off. But there's 40 cents for public safety. This is 1992, 39 cents. What are we doing? We're going backwards. I want to go forward. I want to support that. Members, I'm circulating two things here calling for, because I would like to see more done on reorganization to try to cut overhead. Two things are coming. I paid my water power bill this morning with my wife. We meet. It's a tough time. We go over our bills. God bless you, Bridget, if you're watching TV now. We go over the bills. There's a little part you can check off. You want to make an extra contribution to Angel, Project Angel, to help people in the city. I want to create another line you can check off to help the parks and the libraries and the humanities and the seniors, so that I think the people of Los Angeles may stand up and contribute more if they know it's going directly to the youth of this city. And mind you, I want to tell you, I met a guy named Al Wissett recently. He was Big Ten Player of the Year, All-American. When he was 6 years old, his dad was shot. His dad was a Chicago police officer. His mother would not allow him to play high school sports. So he snuck around and played it on the fields of Chicago in the Parks Department. And when he was made an All-American, and when he spoke the other night, he thanked the Chicago Park Department for helping him become an All-American. What I'm saying, members, to add to this, is our parks are real important, our police are real important, our libraries are real important, but first and foremost, I stand with the Los Angeles Police Department and effort to expand and make the city and the parks and the neighborhoods safer for everybody.
Thank you for those words of inspiration, Tom LaBonge. I know you're concerned about the police, and don't forget the firefighters, because I know that
los bomberos
you failed the firefighter test, and if it wasn't for that, you may have been a firefighter.
Por eso usted quizás se hubiera sido bombero.
You see, the police department takes anybody.
ustedes saben si yo no pasé la prueba de bomberos, pero el departamento de policía
You're the
acepta
one that
cualquier
told me you
persona.
failed the firefighter
Sé
test,
que
so
me
it's
dijo
okay.
que no pasó la prueba de
Mr.
hacerse
Labange,
bombero.
Mr. Labange,
Señor Labange.
touche.
You are quick today. And Bridget's not up there. She's watching television at home. Levity for Mr. Deaton. I last night went to the police academy and saw
Yo fui a la academia
the
de
44
policía
minutes,
y
which
miré los
everyone will be able to
44 minutos,
see
todos
Sunday on
podrán ver
FX.
esto
And it's
el
about the North Hollywood shootout.
domingo.
And it brought tears to my eyes to see what the police officers went through.
Me
And this
hace
is a
sentir
recreation
muy
of that
triste ver lo que
horrific
todo
afternoon
la experiencia
in North
que los
Hollywood
policías pasaron.
when two
Esto
armed robbers
ocurrió en North
had
Hollywood cuando dos
AK-47s and were shooting up the
hombres
community, police
armados
officers, and everyone in sight.
entraron
And
a
I
un
thought about the
banco
budget
y
deliberation. I
balacearon
thought about what we're going to talk
a
about
la
today, and I
comunidad de
thought
estos
about the
oficiales. Yo pensé
process
acerca
and the
del
priorities.
proceso, de los
And I
presupuestos,
looked
las
at those
prioridades, y yo
officers that did
miré a
not run
estos
away.
oficiales que
And
no
that's what they kept
corrieron.
on saying during this 44-minute, they didn't run away. They
Y eso es lo que
stayed,
dijeron, que ellos no
they
corrieron,
were
ellos se
firing their
quedaron,
weapons,
ellos estaban
and the bullets were bouncing off
disparando
the two
sus
armed
armas de
robbers
fuego.
who didn't care who they killed, who they injured, and the heroic action of those officers. We forget that. We forget about that incident. We forget about what they do every single day. And I called up robbery homicide this morning and
Y
said,
nos
can I get the
olvidamos muchas
statistics?
veces de lo que hacen
Where we are today, as
esta
far as
mañana
crime in the city of Los
policía que nos digan
Angeles,
las estadísticas en cuanto al
murders
crimen en
are
Los
down,
Ángeles. Homicidios han
but we still
disminuido,
have
pero aún tenemos
199 dead people in the
199
city of
personas
Los
muertas en la ciudad de Los
Angeles. Murders
Ángeles.
are down 23%.
Ha disminuido por un
Rapes are down
3%. Violaciones
7.8%.
también
And violent crime overall is
7.8%.
down
Y crimen violento en
3.4%.
general ha
What we
disminuido
have in the police
3.4%.
department is a
Tenemos en el
yo-yo
departamento
hiring process.
departamento
It's a
policial
yo-yo. It goes
un
up and
yo-yo.
it goes down.
Sube y
And
baja,
people
sube
who
y
want
baja.
to be
Las
police
personas que quieren
officers,
hacerse
or firefighters, or public safety
agentes de
personnel
policía
want a career.
o
And when we do the
bomberos
yo-yo
quieren
budget, it doesn't work for
una
them. It
carrera y
doesn't work
cuando
for us. It doesn't work for the communities.
tratamos con el
So
presupuesto
when I
de yo-yo
look
trabaja para
at,
nosotros ni
we
funciona
have to
tampoco la
approve a
comunidad,
budget,
tenemos que aprobar
and
un
we have a
presupuesto y
deadline,
tenemos una
and we
fecha
have
límite y
what we all
tenemos lo que
concerned
todos
with public
sabemos,
safety. I'm
seguridad
concerned with it in
pública.
my
Me
community
preocupa
and every
esto
other
en mi
council member is
comunidad y
concerned in
todos
their
los concejales
communities.
me están preocupados.
So
Esto
how
es
do
una
we
flota,
bring
¿cómo
this
es que no
together?
podemos
How do we take care of those
juntar esto? ¿Cómo
officers who are out
podemos
there, who
encargarnos de esos
oftentimes are
oficiales que están
outgunned,
afuera,
we
que
don't
muchas veces no
have
tienen
enough
suficientes
to protect
armas de
us and
fuego
our communities,
para
and how do we make this
protegernos
a
a nosotros
priority?
mismos y a la comunidad como
Mr.
necesitamos
Burton,
prioridad.
over the
Señor
years,
Burton,
I've
en
heard him
los
say,
años ha
make the
dicho
police
muchas veces
department, the fire department
hagan que
priority
el
of the
departamento de
budget, and
policía y
then
el
work from there.
departamento de bomberos sea la
And as I'm
prioridad en el
scrolling through my
presupuesto, mientras
computer,
yo
looking at the
paso
different
a
city
través de mi
departments, we have a ton
computadora,
of departments in the
tenemos
city.
muchísimos
Every time
departamentos
we
de
have a
cada vez
problem,
que
we
tenemos un
create another
problema creamos
department,
otro
create another
departamento,
commission,
creamos
another
otra
blue
comisión,
ribbon, another
otro
oversight. That all costs money.
etcétera. Todo esto cuesta
Neighborhood
dinero.
empowerment, we're
Departamento
spending
de
millions on the Department of Neighborhood
fortalecimiento
Empowerment. And we heard today that it's not working as well as
de
it
concilio
should. So we
escuchamos
keep
que
on
no está
recreating
trabajando, lo
problems.
que debe ser,
We try
continuamos
to
recreando
resolve problems by
problemas,
creating more
resolviendo.
problems. When it comes to the public safety, if we don't have public safety, we don't have anything. That's what Mayor Reardon campaigned on. That's what Mayor Hahn campaigned on. That's what many of us campaigned on. And Councilmember Parks, who knows from his many years in the police department, if you don't have a safe community, you have nothing. You don't have business, you don't have family, you don't have parks, you don't have libraries, you have nothing. So we need to come out with the process of how we're going to tell the mayor and tell the community of Los Angeles that we're going to support public safety. If we hire 40 a month or if we hire 60 a month, to me it doesn't really matter, but we have a steady stream of officers coming into the police department. We know that the attrition is reduced. We know that hiring has increased. We know the process has changed. But the yo-yo process must be changed from what we've gone through, the peaks and the valleys as we've gone through this in the past. My question, Mr. Deaton, the process that we have right now with the LAPD, how many classes do we have in process? How many people waiting for appointment to the academy? How does that flow with this budget?
Mr. Zanoff, ask your pressure button again after this question.
Presupuesto.
What the council, the resolutions is before you
Resoluciones
without the
pendientes
change
sin el
proposed
cambio
with the motion
propuesto con la
52A
moción 52
provides for
aprobé
the police department to
que la
continue for the
policía
first 6
continúe
months to
por
hire
unos
up
6
to
meses para
400 police
contratar hasta
officers
600
in
agentes
the
de policía.
academy. Now, what
En
if
la
we don't have
academia, ¿qué
400
pasa si no tenemos
vacancies? What if we don't have
400 puestos
400
vacantes?
officers
No
leave? What if we
tenemos,
have 100
¿qué tal si
retire
tenemos
and
100
quit?
que
What do we
se
do then,
jubilan
Tim?
y
We would have
dejan
to
ese
adjust
puesto? Entonces tendremos que
the
ajustar
classes in order
las clases para
to meet the requirement. I mean, if you don't have
lograr
any,
los
if you don't
requisitos
have
si no
vacancies, vacancies, then you don't need to put them in. But
puestos
you can,
vacantes tienen
this
que incluirlo
provides for
entonces, pero
hiring up
esto
to
provee
400.
contratar hasta 400.
The whole concept
todo el
the
concepto
Finance Committee's report
del reporte del Comité
is to
de
keep
Finanzas
things in
es de
place,
que todo
to
permanezca
continue to hire
tal como
police
está,
officers until we can
contratando más agentes de
ascertain what
policía
our financial
hasta
position is.
saber
There was not an
exactamente
attempt to
nuestra
slow down the
posición
hiring.
económica. Esto,
There
la
was
cuestión
not an
es de
attempt to decide on how many
demorar
officers at this point.
contratar a personas y
To delay the
esto es
situation
de
until
demorar la
three
situación
things
hasta que
happened. One, the
ocurra tres cosas.
controller
Uno,
advised that
el director de
the
finanzas nos
amount of money that we're expecting to go into the reserve fund to fund next year's budget is a question mark. Two, Sacramento is alive and well,
Sacramento está
and we'll be
vivo.
banding about different numbers until,
Y
I
estarán
believe, until late September, until there's a decision made on what is going to be the impact on the city. And three, there's financial difficulties within our own budget as we have expressed. What we believe, what I believe, is that the city should wait before you add more positions and make the decision on how much, what your financial situation is, so you do not have that up and down hiring on the police department and other departments, and you know exactly where you are, and then you can make your decision. This is not about any one service. This is about trying to see where we're headed financially before we make the final decision. But the hiring will continue through January. Hiring is going to continue for up to 400, which even at the outside, no one is predicting attrition higher than 400. So there will be no delays in that. And all this does is put all the increases, the 320 increases in other departments, general services, ITA, etc., on hold until we can make a determination of where we are. We have a series of unknowns. That will not, none of that will impact the hiring of the police department, in the police department, until we ascertain that situation. Once that's done, we'll know where we are and we can proceed.
Is there any consideration in this, just one more question, any consideration in this on the federal dollars that I know are there that we've applied for to help fund additional police officers? Is there any consideration in this budget regarding the dollars from the federal government on the programs they have in place?
There is not part of that particular COPS program is not included in the budget. However, I believe that the maintenance of effort issues will be more complex if we go ahead and hire we include the 320 in the police department's budget.
Thank you very much. Mr. Parks.
Señor Parks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think in this debate about the budget, and it's unfortunate that it's being driven by those who support the police department and those who do not. But I think those who are voting for the committee, the Finance Committee's report, certainly are doing justice to those 4 million people who live in the city. I think all we have to look at is what happened last year at this time, a budget that was viewed with very little dollars for the police department, that it was going to cover attrition only, but yet the council, during its routine review, allowed the police department to fund $26+ million of resources through the fiscal year, through also close the gap of $30 million dealing with the MTA contract. I don't know how you could label that as being anti-police or not supporting the police department. I think that the 12 months previous work of this council has been remarkable to keep this city solvent, that we should not allow this frenzy of activity to reduce that 12 months of work. What I would like to do in looking at this motion today, item 52A, that item 1 looks very much like the motion that we had previously that went to committee, that I make a motion that we send this item 1 to committee and merge it with the previous motion. But also what I would like to do is also make a motion regarding item 2, that we do ask each department to complete a budget exercise of 1%, 3%, and 5%. So that as the Finance Committee is making additional review of the budget 60 days, 90 days down the road, they can get some specific idea from each department as to what is the level of cut they can endure. And so I think that we should move forward and adopt a budget that is on the agenda, and I think this has been discussed over and over, and I don't think it should continue to be put into those who, the debate that those who support and those who do not support the police department.
Is there a
la
second to
parte
Mr.
que
Park's
apoya y
motion?
la parte que no apoya al Departamento de Policía.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Señor
Colleagues,
Presidente,
you're right.
tiene
This
razón.
issue has
Este
been
asunto ha
debated
sido
and
ya
discussed
dialogado,
and argued
discutido
and
y
fretted
argumentado.
over, and it's clear
Y
there
está
are
bastante
differences of
claro que
opinion
hay
on the city
diferencias
council,
de opinión en el Consejo
but
Municipal, pero
I rise in support
me
today
para
of
apoyar el día de hoy
Councilwoman Perry's
a la
motion.
moción de la concejala
I
Perry.
think,
Creo que
considering everything,
Considerando todo,
this is our
esta es nuestra
opportunity
oportunidad
to say that we will
para
leave
decir
everything
que
else
dejaremos
in the inappropriate balance, but we will take out the hiring of 320
presupuesto
additional officers. And while we may not
no
like the
asignado,
fact
pero
that this
continuaremos
debate
contratando 300 y
has
algo de
really
oficiales de
come down
policía.
to either
Esto
you're
tiene
for
que ver
hiring 320 officers or you're
acerca
not.
de que están de acuerdo
Unfortunately,
para contratar
that
o
is
no,
how it's been portrayed.
pero
That is the
ciertamente es
message
como
that
se ha
has
puesto
been
el
taken
mensaje
out,
que
rightly
ha
or
sido
wrongly.
enviado
The media certainly will
correctamente,
write it that way
lo escriben de
tomorrow.
esta manera
That we had an
mañana, que tuvimos la
opportunity
oportunidad
to hire
de contratar a
320 additional
320
officers, but we have
oficiales
put it on
adicionales, pero lo
hold.
hemos demorado y
And I have spoken on
yo
this
he
before.
hablado
I have
sobre
never
esto, realmente
changed
nunca he
my
cambiado
position.
mi
I was the
posición.
lone no vote on the Budget and
Fue el
Finance
único
Committee
voto no en el Comité de Finanzas y
report that first came to the
Presupuesto, el
council
reporte que
about
hemos
the budget,
aportado
because I
en
said it was
el
my
Consejo
goal
porque digo que mi
to
meta
have
era
a
tener
zero-based budget where we funded public safety. And then, unfortunately, everything else is what we needed to really reconsider, relook at, and rethink out in 6 months. And the predictions may come true, the predictions may not come true. Last year, it was predicted that we would have a $250 million budget deficit, but we were able to close that, and we were able to do that through hard work on the Budget and Finance Committee. And as Councilwoman Gruhl said, we meet every single week on the Budget and Finance Committee. We look at what we're spending. We look at our revenues. None of us want to be fiscally irresponsible, but I think this body is the exact body that should be left up with on a weekly basis, deciding what we still need to fund and what we may need to cut. And I'm just going to make one last point about why I think it's important that we give the full money to the police department to hire these 320 officers now. I don't know how many of you know, I happen to know this intimately because I have 6 public housing developments in my district. I have more housing development projects in my district than anybody. We are losing our housing development police force. No longer will our housing developments be patrolled by our housing development police force. And I asked the question over and over and over again in committee. What will happen? I looked right at the police department. I said, can you make up this slack right now? And they looked back at me every single time and they said, no, we cannot. But now we have residents, many of them, certainly at the level that most need help with curbing crime, gang violence, drug dealing, so that they have a quality of life that they can feel good about, even in our public housing developments. At this point, our police department cannot pick up that slack. If for no other reason than to let our residents know in those public housing developments that we are committed to their safety, we're committed to their security, we're as committed to their quality of life as we are any resident throughout the city of Los Angeles. And the way we do that, I think, is today we say we will give full funding to our police department to hire these officers. I had a call yesterday from one of the residents who said, you say you're committed to our security, you say you're committed to our safety. How can you be committed when you won't vote to hire the additional 300 officers tomorrow? So I'm just asking you on that basis, let's give the chief of police the full funding he needs to hire extra police officers and finally really turn the city around and make it one of the safest big cities in this country. I really ask you to support this. I think this is the right thing for us to do today.
Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm about to make an amendment to get a report back in 30 days, but I need a clarification, and I think this question would be directed to the CAO on the chart on the back of my motion. it's entitled 2003 to 2004 Proposed Budget Salaries - General Account. Impact of 3% across the board reduction with the exception of police, fire, and sanitation refuse collection. There's an inconsistency, I think, in this chart, and it contradicts the text of my motion. And the specific items are on fire, police, and the Bureau of Sanitation. In the column entitled 3% reduction. For fire, it shows a reduction of a little over $500,000. In police, it shows a $5 million reduction. In sanitation, it shows 0. And so I just wanted to clarify. Perhaps these numbers hadn't been updated, or maybe I'm misunderstanding it, because in my motion, it clearly stated that police, fire, and sanitation should be accepted or not included in that.
Well, we had developed multiple schedules, multiple charts of the type you're referring to. One included a 3% across the board for all departments, but obviously that $5 million for the police department is not, that in itself is not accurate, because the police department's salary count is much larger. That probably represents just the civilian salaries. This particular schedule, well, we also developed a schedule that excluded, consistent with your motion, a 3% cut for the 3 departments. We also had a schedule that excluded a 3% cut for building and safety, because I would caution, if you are going to exclude,
please hold my time,
a number of departments, you probably would want to include building and safety because of the code enforcement function.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. I think I needed a chart that is consistent with the text that's on the other side, so that the chart agrees with the motion and the schedule. I'm sorry, the schedule should be
la información al reverso de esta moción sea igual a las palabras en la moción.
Whoever did this schedule did pick up sanitation, so it looks like they had some level of awareness that, you know, at least for sanitation there should be a 0 in that column, so the same should be indicated for police and fire in order to agree with what Mr.
Error here.
Oh, okay. Okay, so can we get that corrected?
¿Podemos corregir esto?
Make them both zeros.
Sí.
Okay, well, I wanted to highlight that, indicated for the record that on the column for 3% reduction, fire and police should indicate 0, and then I'd like to go ahead and make my motion requesting a report back in 30 days on the issue of 3% across-the-board reduction in general fund salary accounts in all city departments except police, fire, and sanitation, parentheses, refuse collection only, to total 30 million, and I'd like to see that come back today. And if I may, I would appreciate a second on that motion.
Pido un
Mr.
apoyo.
LaBonge seconds. Next on the queue is Mr. Pacheco,
Señor
followed by
Pacheco,
Mr. Reyes,
señor
Mr.
Reyes,
Burnson,
señor
and Mr.
Burnson, y señor
LaBonge.
LaBonge.
Mr. Pacheco.
I just wanted to, Mr. President and colleagues, respond to a couple of comments that were made by some of our colleagues. One is that one of our colleagues says that we should put it in the budget, the fact that we want to hire the additional 320 officers. And I just want you to all know that it is in our budget. If you look at the proposed budget that came to us, the unappropriated balance prior to the committee acting had about $17 million, $17.9 million of expenditures, the business assistance, virtual network, the city attorney outside counsel, the FMIS needs assessment study, the LAPD consent decree program, the financial audits, the witness protection program, the LA tax program, litigation expense account, the relocation costs for displaced tenants, target folders projects, and CompStat. Putting something in the inappropriate balance doesn't mean we do not have a commitment to it. Obviously we do, because we just put there was placed $17 million worth of items, including CompStat, which deals directly with the police department. So I don't want anyone to misinterpret this budget as not maintaining the priorities and commitments that were presented by the mayor, because it does. When nothing's been cut, there's still a commitment to public safety. This is a public safety driven budget. I do have one concern that no one other than myself has mentioned the fact that the city attorney's office is part of our public safety program. If we're going to arrest misdemeanants on the broken window theory, you're going to need our city attorneys to prosecute them. And yet everyone wants to cut from the city attorney's office while we increase cops. We are definitely taking advantage of our opportunity to hire police officers because we're going to hire 400 from now through January. So it's not accurate, not true to say we're not taking an opportunity to hire people. The idea that this is a yo-yo budget is really offensive to the whole notion of what the budget is proposing from the council. And Mr. Zine was brought up to speed on the fact that we're going to be hiring 400 officers, so we're not going to turn off the switch in terms of hiring. The idea about predictions, the one thing I will say about predictions is that anyone who argues predictions, it cuts both ways. From the standpoint that at the end of the 6 months or in 4 or 5 months when we take a second look at the budget, someone will stand up and say, I told you so. Either those who believe things are going to turn out positively or those who believe that it's going to turn out negatively. So predictions can go either way. The wait-and-see approach seems appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Pacheco. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. I was listening intently to the presentation by Councilman Rahan and what's happening with the police. And that really begs the question, and it echoes some of the requests we made last week when Councilman Perry wanted to know more about the whole issue of how density impacts the police decision when it comes to deployment. I've asked for the deployment formula, and it seems to be the scientific formula no one knows really how to apply. So as the legislative body working with the executive body, we are in a very good place to start talking about deployment. Where does our mix of strategies, when we talk about the city attorney, we talk about bulky items, we talk about the housing department, we talk about planning, we talk about police, comprehensively, how are we addressing these issues, especially in the facilities that you mentioned. I have David, the Mead Housing Project, some know it as Dogtown. I have Rose Hills, which is a block away from my district. It used to be in my district. Also a housing authority place that will not have police. It is up to us, along with the mayor, working with the police department, which is one department of many departments that we are accountable for, to look at how we're allocating our resources. And those are the formulas we need to attack. Those are the formulas we need to understand, and we need to hold department heads accountable. They are not elected bodies, they've been selected. As selected individuals, we as elected officials need to hold them accountable. So from a budget point of view, how are these resources being allocated? Looking at the issues of density, poverty, levels of education, levels of open space, because these are the conditions that build up the basis for the broken windows theory of how areas become vulnerable to crime, and how our families become vulnerable to what we like to now refer to as domestic terrorists.
Mr. Burnson.
Well, it's pretty obvious where this is going, and but I just want to say this, that when you do your budgets in the future, you really ought to look at the things you're funding and say, is this necessary? Is that necessary? Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have a commission on the status of this or that. It's nice to have this program. But is it necessary? Is it more important to fund that or to have your libraries open more often? Is it more important to have officers and an extra man in the fire department? I mean, these are the decisions. You know, the 3% is a stopgap thing or a Band-Aid. I'll admit that. But we really need these officers. And the reason that we're in this position is because the powers that be that brought the mayor and the council and the finance committee, I'll blame all parties for this, didn't prioritize the needs of the city. They didn't say what was most important and what it needed to do it correctly. And when you run out of money, you don't have the revenue for it, that's where it stops. So in the future, I hope those of you that are listening, and I don't know if any of you are, okay, but I hope you'll do it that way, because there are some things, there's a lot of things that we fund that are very nice, but I'm sure if they weren't funded, you'd have enough for these 320 cops right now.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you, and again, I want to thank Hal Burtson. It's true, and Ed, what you were talking about a minute ago, I think we got to start to fund in the neighborhood first. All departments have certain formulas, and the police department has a formula how they do it, but we have to have a base, and you start the base by expanding the police department and make sure that there are people there. Members, I did a little more research that I just want you to let you know, and I got asked, Bill, do you know how much it costs a year to run a task force for the fire department, offhand?
I mean, the 10th member?
Yeah, no, 10-man task force in a firehouse, 2 trucks, 2 engines in a truck.
I don't know that
Yeah, I
offhand.
know. Okay, do you know how much to run a library?
How much it takes to run a library?
Yeah.
It depends if it's a regional or just a local.
Well, a regular one. What do you think it costs?
I'm sure you have that number.
I got it right here. I got you. How much it costs to run a police division? I'll ask Ron Deaton. Just what does it cost for the sworn expense vehicle replacement at Devonshire Division or Hollywood or, okay, you don't know. But a fire station. Members, I think this is what's important about this exercise and this stalemate that is not going to be a stalemate anymore because the day will pass and it will go to committee and things will happen. But it costs approximately $31 million a year to run the average police division for staffing, for vehicle replacement. It cost about $6 million a year to run Task Force 35 on 1610 North Hillhurst in Los Feliz with a truck and an engine and a pumper and paramedics. It costs about $1.2 million to run your average library. And I think these are important numbers. For a patrol, 24 hours patrol in your neighborhood, a basic car, costs about $1.6 million for complete coverage, 24 hours. Those are numbers that are real important. I'm just saying that if we do this exercise as we go on, and it's important, as Mr. Burtson was talking about earlier, to talk about what is important to communities, and then to make the tough decisions that we have to make to get through this period of time. I wanted to articulate that again because I did do some research, because I don't think we all know what it costs. And I think if we know what it costs, I think it helps the public, because we can articulate to the public what it costs and the value. The value of Los Angeles is priceless. And what's priceless is the public safety of the people of this city, whatever neighborhood they live, whatever development they may live in, off of Mulholland or off of 150th Street, or wherever it may be. So I'm just setting it up again, and I know all of you support public safety, and all of you have a consciousness for public safety. We just got to make a priority as how we go forward from here. So I thank you and thank everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to clarify a point Mr. Pacheco brought up. When I talked about the yo-yo budget, I talked about the yo-yo budget with the police department. Traditionally, it's been mass hiring, no hiring, mass hiring, no hiring, and that was my reference. I wasn't taking offense with the budget and finance, all the hours you spent in your committee. It was strictly over the years, and Mr. Deaton, you know this, yes, how that budget with the police department, strictly that hiring process has been a yo-yo, mass hiring, no hiring, mass back and forth. Will you make sure I didn't offend Mr. Pacheco with my comments?
I can't take care of that, but I do agree with you on the police hiring.
That's what the issue was. Thank you. I just want to make a...
No, it was clearly and there has been a feast and famine situation with the police department over time. And
over the 33 years I was there.
Right, and there's needs to be a more constant hiring process.
Thank you. I want to pass the microphone to Councilman Reyes the rest of my time.
I have Ms. Misikowski and Mr. Holden.
Well, I
and
guess you
Mr.
have permission
Labange
on button.
in the queue.
She's going to pass.
Ms. Misikowski? Ms. Misikowski passes. Mr. Holden?
The members, as we talk about cutting various departments 3%, be mindful of the fact that you talk about cutting this Commission on the Status of Women, which is the lowest rated department in the city of Los Angeles. Be mindful of the fact that you're cutting the Department of Aging, which supports our senior citizens, and they're growing each day by thousands. Be mindful of those facts. plus other departments, and as I mentioned earlier, the library and the parks and so on, which is the crime prevention programs that incorporate in those departments as well. Be mindful of that. I just wanted you to know that just last night, I was at the Pio Pico Library, which is located in Koreatown, and I went into a Starbucks restaurant, in the restaurant there, and two young men and a tutor was studying there at 7:30, quarter to 8 at night, only because the library is either closed or about to close. Now, what's going to happen if you adopt across the board 3%? At 6 o'clock, they won't be there. At 5 o'clock, they may not be there when they're most needed. Now, let me just say, I heard Mr. Bernstein talk about, oh, yeah, the libraries that get by, the parks that get by. He doesn't have any kids going to the libraries anymore. The fact of the matter is that I don't know how you can be so cold at heart to make those kind of statements and believe in them. And I heard that Mr. Zine, when he said about the shootout in the valley, you know, they say when you sign up, they're not drafted into this military. They're all volunteers. And as I said by one police officer, the courage is when you fill out the application. Everything is duty. Everything else is duty. Now, we don't want our police officers shot at. We don't want our citizens shot. We want them to be there to protect them. But my God, that's one incident. They were doing their duty as I did in the military. When I signed up, when I volunteered, I did my duty. And they getting paid a heck of a lot more than I got paid. And for those guys who won't be coming home from the Middle East. So come on, my friends. The fact of the matter is that one guy whom I know and known and love, his name is Kenneth Hahn. I'm going to use him against you because you're wrong. When you think of the Roy Campanella Park, Jesse Owen Park, the Magic Johnson Park, all those parks down there, and swimming pools, Kenny took pride in those pools. He took pride in those parks. Madame Kilbrew Library that was built out of Model Neighborhoods money. When the cities squandered this money with the Model Cities program, and they have nothing to show for it. When you look into the county area that he represented, the alleys are paved, the lights are in, the parks have been maintained, the libraries are there, because he cared about services for the people. And not only that, since he's no longer here, Mrs. Burke, to her credit, the Kenny Hahn Park, which I authored legislation to create the Baldwin Hills Park, now known as the Kenny Hahn Park, which I'm proud of, being well maintained as well. What if those cuts were implemented across the board there as they're being proposed here? His legacy should live on based on what he's done, the example that he's shown for the people of this county and of this city. When he was a city council person, he said, no swimming pools for the South Central, no traffic signal, then I won't sign off for others. Those kind of things you can never forget. I say to you, my friends, this motion should go down where it belongs, down the tubes. We should not vote for it. As I said once again, it's an insult and an affront to the people of this city to even have them believe that we can balance the budget this way. It's fraudulent because the money is not there. It's all about politics. Let me win this issue. Let you lose that issue. Well, it's not about winning and losing amongst the members of the council or elected officials. It's about what's right for the city and what is not right. What's being proposed is not only not right, but it's not fair and it's misleading. The police budget, Mr. LaBonge talked about in 1992, it was a 38% or whatever. He neglected to give you all the facts. Today it's about 67, 68% of the total budget. If you're going to give a little bit, give it all.
Mr. Holden.
If you're going to give a little bit, give it all. We are not here to deceive the public, and we should not do that anymore.
Let me recognize Councilmember Hahn at this time.
Don't you use my father's name. Do not use my father's name to back up your reason for not voting for public safety. If there was any legacy that Kenny Hahn had, it was about public safety. My father championed the paramedic program, and that paramedic program today, which started in LA County because of him, saved lives all over not only the county, the state of California, the country, the world. Everyone has paramedics now. He championed the sheriff's department. He always said it was the greatest department in the country was the sheriff's department. And he believed in funding public safety. And he fought the fight with governors, and you know it, to institute a paramedic program in the county of Los Angeles. He was always for firefighters. He was always for police officers and sheriffs. So do not use Kenny Hahn's name to say that he will not fully fund public safety. Yes, he believed in parks. Yes, he believed in swimming pools. Yes, I still have people come up to me to this day to say it was because of the free swimming programs in Watts that these people are now county lifeguards and have gone on to have careers. Yes, he believed in that, but don't say that Kenny Hahn would be against us fully funding public safety firefighters and police officers, because I know more than you what he believed in and what he cared about.
Mr. Labange.
I call for the question, please.
Okay. Members, the previous question has been called. Madam Clerk, please open the roll on the previous question.
Point of personal privilege.
Madam Clerk, please open the roll on the previous question.
La pregunta previa.
Please close the roll
Cierre su
and
voto y
tabulate the
tabúlese
vote.
conteo.
13
sí,
Okay,
un
that
no.
does end discussion.
Termina este diálogo.
We have a series of votes. We
Tenemos
have
varios
the
votos,
matter
tenemos
before
el
us
asunto
and a couple of amending
presente
motions.
y varias
Madam Clerk, the
mociones.
first vote, please.
Mr. President, there are two motions
Doctor, hay dos
about sending this
mociones
matter back to
para
committee.
enviar este
Mr. Weiss
asunto al
and
comité.
Mr.
Señor
Parks
Weiss y
both
señor
made
Parks ambos
motions to
presentaron esta
refer
moción para
the amending motion
reenviar
to
esta
committee and
moción
requesting
al
reports from the
comité y piden reportes de los
all of the general
departamentos
managers
y
regarding
todos
the
los
3%
gerentes
reduction.
administradores tocante al
And I believe
3% de
Mr.
reducción. Y creo
Parks
yo que
wanted
el
a
señor
report
Parks
on
quiere un
1, 3, and
reporte
5%
sobre
reduction.
1, 3 y 5%
Let's
de
open the
reducción.
roll
Abro ese voto
first
primero
on sending the motion to
para enviar
committee.
esta moción al comité.
The first vote will be on
El primer
whether or not
voto
to
será
send the
sí o
motion
no
to
enviar esta
committee.
moción al comité.
Is that clear?
Senate committee.
Madam Clerk, please open
Abro
the
ese
roll.
voto.
Please close
Cierre
the
ese
roll
voto.
and tabulate
Tabule
the
ese
vote.
conteo.
8 ayes, 6
8
noes.
sí,
Okay.
6 no.
That motion is referred to the Budget and Finance
Será
Committee.
enviado esta
We now have amending motions
este
requesting
asunto
additional
al comité de
reports.
presupuesto.
We can take it all together. Let's open.
Of course, for what the clerk mentioned that was sent to committee, report back.
Okay, is that the consensus of the body, the understanding of the body?
El grupo tiene entendimiento de
Just-
que
Okay, let's be more technical about it then. Let's take a separate vote on the
que un
additional
voto
reports
aparte en los
that were
reportes
requested.
adicionales que
Mr.
se
Bernson,
pidieron, señor Bernson.
the various requests
Hay
for additional
varias
reports and
peticiones
information,
para
that's
que
what we're voting
información
on
y
now.
reportes adicionales
Please
sea
open the roll,
enviado. Abro
please
ese
close
voto,
the
cierro ese
roll,
voto y
and
tabule ese
tabulate the
conteo.
vote.
14 ayes.
14 sí.
Okay, that is
Ha
approved.
sido aprobado.
We now have, I believe,
Ahora,
The resolution before
la
council.
resolución.
the resolution
Esta
which reflects the
resolución
council's
refleja
action
la
from last Monday.
acción del lunes pasado.
Madam Clerk, please
Dactorio,
open
abro
the
ese
roll,
voto,
please close
cierre
the
ese
roll,
voto
and
y
tabulate
tabule
the
ese
vote.
conteo.
11 ayes,
11
3
sí,
noes.
3
That is
no.
approved.
Ha sido aprobado.
Thank you very much.
Gracias.
Next item, Mr. President, this is the time for comments from the public
Momento
on
para
items not
comentarios
on
públicos
council's
sobre asuntos que
agenda.
no están incluidos en la agenda
And I
del
do
día de
not
hoy.
have
No
requests from
tengo
members of the
peticiones del
public to
miembro del
address the
público para
council
hablar con el Consejo
on matters within
Municipal
our
sobre asuntos
jurisdiction.
dentro de nuestra jurisdicción.
Public comment period
Voto
for
del
today is closed. Ms.
comentario público
Miskowski?
se abre sesión. Señor
Mr.
Miskowski,
President, I
señor
would like us
presidente, me
to
gustaría
move reconsideration of item
reconsiderar
40 on
asunto
yesterday.
40.
This was
De
the
ayer
item
este es el asunto
that was dealing with cover,
trata
daily
con
cover materials on landfill.
los materiales.
And there was a list. We had exempted one from the list. Today, I would just like to ask for
Me gustaría
reconsideration so we can
reconsiderar
accept
esto
one
para
other item from the
aceptar
list,
un
which is
asunto
TARP.
adicional de
Not
la-
any of the other, everything else that was requested and approved to be eliminated and prohibited stays in place. But for that reason, I'd like to ask reconsideration of
Quiero
item
reconsiderar
40.
asunto 40.
Okay, members, we have a request to reconsider
Petición para
item 40
reconsiderar
from
asunto
yesterday's
40
agenda.
de la agenda del
Madam
día de
Clerk,
ayer.
please open
Victoria,
the
abre
roll
ese
on
voto
reconsideration.
para reconsiderar este asunto.
Please close the roll
Cierre ese voto
and
y tabule
tabulate
ese
the vote.
conteo.
14 ayes.
14 sí.
That is therefore reconsidered. Ms. Miskowski?
The only thing I would like to do then is remove the word tarps from the list of those items that are prohibited as acceptable daily cover materials. Everything else stays in place as the council asked yesterday and asked for I vote.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the roll on the item as amended. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
49.
That is approved. Mr. Pacheco?
Forthwith on 52.
Without objection, forthwith on item 52 and forthwith on item 40 from yesterday's agenda. Next item, please.
Mr. President, do you wish to clear the desk before going into closed session?
Let's do housekeeping.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Motion shall be posted and referred.
There's an excuse on the desk. Councilmember Labange requests to be excused Tuesday, June 24th and Wednesday, June 25th for city business that meets council policy.
Excuse is approved.
And that clears the desk for closed session.
And forthwith on item 33 as well. In conformance with California law, the council will now adjourn into closed session. Guards, please clear the chambers. Welcome back into open session. Madam Clerk, next matter before us, please.
On item number 49, direction to encumber funds in the amount of $3,591,000 from the liability claims account in the case of Richard Nagatoshi versus City of Los Angeles.
Okay, before we open the roll, let me ask us to pause for a second. For the record, Mr. Parks has been recused on this item. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith, please. Next item.
And that clears the desk, Mr. President.
Okay, we can welcome Mr. Parks back in if he wants to rejoin us for announcements or adjourning tributes. Are there any announcements today? Members, announcements today? Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, you're all invited, as well as any of our viewers or residents of Los Angeles, to what will become Bob Hope Square tomorrow at 11:30. Just to remind folks, at Hollywood and Vine, 11:30, we'll dedicate Hollywood and Vine, most famous intersection in the city and one of the most famous in the world, as Bob Hope Square for his 100th birthday. A little present for Bob and the Hope family. So hope to see many of you there. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Ms. Gruhl for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to alert those of you that are watching in the Sunland Tongue area, we have bulky item pickup day at Kmart on Saturday, starting early, and if you want some information about it, you can call my office at 213-485-3391. I'll make this announcement on Friday as well, but we're trying to demonstrate that the city can help pick up that bulky item and make our neighborhoods cleaner. So encourage everyone in the Sunland Tongue area to participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kroll. Mr. Zine for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to alert our motorcycle fans out there, and I know there's thousands of them. We have a ride this weekend for Haven Hills. It's the Battered Women's Shelter in the San Fernando Valley, and I learned yesterday that Shaquille O'Neal will be there on his motorcycle joining us, and we're going to be meeting at Yankee Doodles at Victory and Topanga in Woodland Hills from 9 to 11 a.m. It's a poker run, so if you have a motorcycle, whatever kind of motorcycle, come on out. We welcome you. It's in coordination with the Choir Boys, which is a law enforcement group, the Fire Hogs, which is firefighters, and anyone with a motorcycle is invited to join us this Sunday from 9 to 11. All the dollars are going to go to Haven Hills Battered Women's Shelter, so we invite you all to come out and enjoy. It's a 75-mile ride to the beach with a concert, lunch. It'll be a fun day. That's at Topanga and Victory from 9 to 11 at Yankee Doodles. Come on out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Other announcements, colleagues? Adjourning tributes.
Mr. President, members, just a point of order, sir.
Mr. Holden.
Mr. Parks wanted to adjourn in memory of a distinguished jurist, and he's outside.
Try to call Mr. Parks back in. Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two adjourning motions. First one, Judge Xenophon Lang Sr. passed away Thursday, May 22nd, 2003. He received his bachelor's degree from Dillard University in New Orleans, Louisiana in 1941. He served as a corporal in the United States Army during World War II, and after the war moved to Los Angeles, California, where he began pre-dental studies at Compton College. He then enrolled in Southwest University School of Law, where he graduated in 51. He was in private practice from 51 to 66, and then was appointed to the LA Municipal Court in December 27, 1966. He retired from the bench December 31st, 86. He was upon retirement, he served as the president of the Municipal Court Judges Association, Los Angeles County, and was a member of the California Judges Association. He's survived by his wife, Patricia, 6 children, his son, Judge Xenophon Lang Jr., and also a host of other relatives. My second adjourning motion is for Irene Jenkins, born December 29, 1917, passed away in Florida on Thursday, May 22, 2003. Ms. Jenkins is the aunt of Reverend Dr. Cecil L. Chip Murray, senior pastor, First AME Church, fame. She's survived by her husband, Andrew, and a host of other relatives.
Mr. Holden.
I'd like to join Mr. Parks in joining in memory of Judge Xenophon Lang. He was well known and very active politically in our community. He was one of the original and founding members of the New Frontier Democratic Club. He was appointed to serve on the bench municipal court by Governor Pat Brown at the time, and he served with distinction. Before he was retired and during the time of service, he was appointed by his colleagues to be the presiding judge of the municipal court, and did an excellent job in that position. As has already been stated, in '86, he retired. During the time of service, of course, he was a good friend to a friend of mine who was a supervisor at the Board of Supervisors. I'll put it that way right now. The fact of the matter is that when Xenophon Lang needed something from the Board of Supervisors, the supervisor that I worked for would say, all right, take care of the presiding judge, Xenophon Lang. He's doing a good job and well-deserving of kind of support. So we worked very closely with him as he did with the supervisor's office. And certainly he'll be missed. His contribution to our society in many, many ways are significant and will never be forgotten because it made us a better community than it was before he arrived.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I know that Mr. Pacheco wanted to join me on this motion as I adjourn in the memory of Andy Camacho, who passed away on May 19th, 2003. Andy? This is his father. His father. Okay, just wait. He was born in Tucson, Arizona, and arrived in Southern California at the age of 4. He patriotically served his country in the 92nd Infantry of the United States Army for over 50 years, and he maintained a successful business as A. Camacho painting contractor. Following his retirement, he became the beloved patron of El Paseo restaurant in historic Olvera Street. He was an avid fisherman and especially enjoyed summers with his family at Estero Beach Resort in Ensenada, Mexico. He leaves behind to cherish his memories. His wife, Hortensia Camacho, sons, Andy Jr., and wife, Dr. Mary Lou Ozahana Vencino, and Ernie of Sierra Madre, daughter, Patricia Roth, and her husband, Tom, brother Frank Camacho, sister Esther Montana, 9 grandchildren and 15 great-grandchildren. He is predeceased by his brothers Raymond, Ralph, and Alex Camacho, and sister Julia Mesa. Services were held for him on May 22nd and 23rd, 2003, and I saw Andy a few weeks ago at a reunion of current and former City Hall staffers, and Andy, the son, is fine and looked very healthy and well. And I know that I suspect many of us would like to join myself and Mr. Pacheco on a journey in memory of Andy's father. All members?
All
Okay,
members.
great, thank
I'd
you.
like to join in that effort also. Ms. Perry, did you say the 92nd Infantry Division
That's correct.
in Italy?
I don't know, it doesn't say.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Good to know.
Other tributes? Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned.